and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, a podcast where a group of friends meet up at the pubs in our favorite role-playing games. You're listening to episode 3, and tonight the Thirsty Mage takes over the Crossroads Bar in the red light district of Shinjuku. My name is David Lloyd, and I'm the host, and tonight we have two patrons to The Thirsty Mage with us. First up, she is the producer of the gorgeous new first-person exploration title Manifold Garden, is also the producer of the successfully kickstarted title Scale, all the while still finding time to be an RPG aficionado, Miss Seren McNulty.
Hey.
How are you tonight?
Good, excited.
That's good. Do you have a drink of choice tonight?
Sure. Diet Pepsi Zero, or Max, or whatever they're calling it today.
Isn't Max the one that they load up with, we're gonna put energy in you?
It's the diet for women.
I thought that was just the regular diet. That's why they had to make it Coke Zero.
Isn't it the stevia one?
It's aspartame. Yeah, I don't know. It's a black can.
Max feels like it should be an energy drink. It feels like you're gonna want to punch through a wall.
It says Max Taste Pepsi Zero Sugar. So I don't know what it's called.
Did you actually get that from Japan? That's fucking nonsense. Is Tommy Lee Jones on the can? What is happening?
Look, the PepsiCo they're experts at branding, clearly. Anyways, moving away.
She's team player, James. Getting into the mood. And our second guest, the host of Radio Free Nintendo and second time patron to the Thirsty Mage, Mr. James Jones.
I'm back.
He's back. We have something better than an IPA tonight?
The recriminations will never be the same. I don't have anything right now, but that might change later.
Okay. I was actually at my supermarket today and was pleased to find out that they're now selling my favorite beer, Grimbergen. So that's a double amber from Belgium.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so it's there's only been 2 bars I've seen it in, which are now my favorite bars. And the local supermarket is now my favorite supermarket. So
there you go. It's that easy.
There you go.
It's that easy.
I'll pretend
businesses.
I know what you're talking about.
It's capitalism. That's what he's talking about.
Yes.
That's right.
No, I understand that. Yes.
So tonight we'll be discussing...
Oh, God.
It didn't even get through the intro, James. I'm that frazzled.
It's fine. It's fine. So like I said, chill. Be chill.
I haven't drinking enough. That's my problem. So...
Oh, man, that makes everything better.
That's right.
I always find to do my best podcast work 3 beers in.
Well, as I was telling Neil and Casey last week, I said doing podcasting is like golf. The more you drink, the better you get.
I can attest to a hotel bed that was almost set on fire that proves that is not the case.
I don't know. The more James drinks, the more he'll tolerate on live streams, I've found. So...
No, it's usually I need to tolerate more, so I drink more. It's not so much that it's the reverse cause. It is the action that comes with the need to tolerate, not the catalyst of toleration.
All right, well, let's. I'm going to finish my intro now with tonight. We are discussing Persona 5.
Wake up, get up, get up there. Raise your voice, I guess like yours. Feed your anger like fire. Why does nobody want you? Just imagine you're out there. Swirling lights in a makeup. Can't move fast with a break. If you hold on, life won't change.
So it's been a full year since its original release in the West last year, but we are warning you right now that there will be spoilers. But we've passed the deadline of no longer able to talk about it, so I think we're safe on all topics.
Yes. Everything is fair game.
That's right.
Even New Game Plus content, everything is fair game.
Yep. So Persona 5, like I said, it was released back in Japan in 2016, actually, of September. And
September
then
15th.
Yep. And was localized and released April 2017.
Localized is a strong term.
I thought it was coming out in 2005. What was it? 2015? Did I miss something?
It depends how frequently you check the news on the internet, I guess. So the story focuses on a group of teenagers that discover a metaverse, a separate dimension, that's shaped by the perceptions of the people in the real world. These teenagers then use this dimension to change the hearts of criminals and try to shape society in the way they feel it should be done. So it's obviously 5. It's in a series of Persona games, but for me, this was actually my first jump into any Persona or Shin Megami Tensei or...
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Hey, compared to more than 80% of the games in the Megami Tensei franchise, it is a great jumping on point.
Yeah, I mean it's relatively benign with some of the stuff that, and bearing in mind that whether or not Persona is a series is totally part of the series is totally regional, but the elements that are continuous between Persona and the other SMT games, it's relatively benign with respect to their intensity.
Yes, and let's just even start with, this game has difficulty options.
Yeah, isn't that great?
So, isn't that more accessible than half the SMT games?
I can't remember. Does 4 have difficulty settings?
I think 4 has normal and hard.
Okay. That sounds right.
That's common for most MT games, is they at least have a normal and a hard, but the normal is usually, hey, we're going to kick your ass, and hard is, hey, did you have no problem with normal?
You're bleeding? That's good.
That's interesting because 5 is the third reinvention of the Persona series. You had 1, which was a first-person dungeon crawling RPG. That was Revelations Persona in the West, or Megami Ibun Roku Persona in Japan. And then you had Persona 2, which was a game so big it was released in 2 retail packages. Each on PS1, each one multiple discs, I believe.
Did you have to pay separately for each one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, they were 2 full-priced games. It was 2 full-priced games long. Like, Persona 2 is this PS1 epic.
Well, it gets weirder because how they localized it is even
stranger. Well, I'll get to that in a second. The localization is messy. That's like an isometric top-down, almost strategy RPG at times. Interesting to note that James mentioned. So, 2 PS1 games. The first one was Eternal Punishment, and the second was Innocent Sin. No, other way around. Innocent Sin, then Eternal Punishment.
Yes.
So, in the West, we got a localization of Persona 1, which was Atlus's first localization in the West. That had a really, really notable localization where they changed a lot of the content. Like, they made one of the characters black and gave him an American name. I don't know.
As you do.
As you do.
But they didn't change the setting, though, did they?
No, they didn't.
All right, whatever.
It's not Ace Attorney. And then, for Persona 2, they released the second half only. They did not. They did not localize the first half in the West.
Okay, so there's the game is split into 2.
Yes.
You pay twice the money for one game.
Each one is a full game. Yes.
It is a full game. Okay.
But you only get half the story.
Yes. And like the save files don't really transfer over. Like,
and they gave you the second half of the story first.
Only.
Yes.
Only.
In
the
West.
Localized in the West. They only localized the second half. Then, many, many years later, like 2009, 2010, they remade those 2 games for PSP. At this point, they did localize the first half, and they didn't remake the PSP remake of the second one. So they didn't localize the PSP remake of the second one. So the only way you can play those games in English is the PSP remake of the first and the PS1 original of the second. And the localizations are inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real great. It's a real great setup that they've got there. They also changed Hitler was an enemy in Persona 2. They gave him sunglasses and changed his name to Führer. for more cultural sensitivity, apparently.
Some classes make everything better.
Yes. So Persona 2 was the second reinvention of the Persona RPG series, and then you had the first reinvention, excuse me. Persona 3 was the second reinvention, and that's much closer to what we know today. People don't really talk about 1 and 2 that much, even though they're great games. You have building up your party and going out into the dungeon exploration. You have social links, which is what confidants in Persona 5 are. You have the daytime, nighttime time management. You have school. You have managing the day-by-day calendar. It is the modern formula for the Persona games. And then Persona 4 was released a year later in the same engine. And that was 2008. And then 2016 and 2017, they released Persona 5, which reinvented it a bit. They made dungeons that were hand-designed, so like the palaces.
Yeah.
And they added like the stealth functions, and they made the games look better than a PS2 game. So, like...
Yeah, I mean, Persona 5, I mean, I've played through 3, 4, and 5. Persona 5 is very clearly in the lineage of 3 and 4. It's the dungeon structure that really changes things up. And, of course, the fact that the game is 8 years newer
yes.
Is an important caveat to include on there. So, and it feels very familiar from its most immediate 2 predecessors.
Yes.
If you were to go 3 to 5, I think you might feel a pretty hard shift. Just because of the refinement that they put into it over the years. It is insane that they went 8 years between 4 and 5. Now, granted, they worked on a lot of stuff between then.
We can get to that soon.
It's just crazy when you think about it. It's like,
yes,
that's it for 8 years.
Yeah, when Persona 5 was announced, I was excited and then also nervous because they hadn't introduced a wholly original cast in a very long time. I was like, oh, we get to roll the dice again here. Like, you struck gold with Persona 4. Everyone loved that cast.
Did they?
So much that they kept reusing that cast.
Yeah. So, like, Persona Q, which reuses 3 and 4, which... There's going to be, if you played those games, there's going to be someone in between those 2 casts that you really, like, that's but dude.
Yes.
And then it's like, they're really going to the well with these 2, aren't they? And then 4, they really went after it. It almost feels like they had to make 5 then, because at that point, they're like, okay, we've run out of ways to use these casts. We need a new set. Because they'd made animes for both.
They did not make anime for 3. They made a movie.
They made a movie. They made a movie series. Okay, yes.
They made 4 Persona 4, the animation, they really, really struggled because that's not a game that gets told well in a couple 22-minute episodes. So for Persona 3, they decided to make 4 feature-length movies and release them in theaters. And the Blu-rays for those... In America, with American Blu-ray prices, are $80 a Blu-ray.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't they?
So
be?
it's about $400 to buy the full story
value
on Blu-ray.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. So, anyways.
Yeah.
For the Persona 5, just because the length of time that it took. Now, I could be wrong, but part of the reason it took so long too was didn't the director changed up part of the game right after the tsunami?
I think that had some impact. So, Persona 5. Let's just get into the backstory here. So, yeah, the director is Katsuhiro Hashino, or Hashino-san. He was the director of P Studio. After Persona 5, they shuffled up all the leadership again. P Studio formed in, I think, 2003, after SMT3 Nocturne, to create an SMT game for a mass audience. And that project became Persona 3. So they made... Persona 3 was their first title. And then they remade it a year later. for Persona 3 Fez on PS2, which tweaked some things, improved some things, and added a 40-hour epilogue campaign.
Oh, God.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God, it's so bad, too.
It's fine.
It's not.
Anyways, Persona 3 and Persona 3 Fez were both on PS2, and then 6 months after P3 Fez, they released Persona 4, same engine, also PS2, and then they remade Persona 3 again, this time for the PSP, which added a female protagonist option, which changed up all the social links and a bunch of the writing, and a lot of the music, but it removed the ability to, like, move your character around the overworld because it was running on a PSP.
Yeah, it almost got, like, visual novel-y that way.
Yeah, it was, you're moving a cursor around, mostly.
I want to go here.
It's a lot of selecting locations from menus. And it did not include the epilogue, so long story short on that one, there isn't a definitive version of Persona 3. Then you had Catherine, which was their first HD game. This was using the Havoc engine, which was a third-party licensed engine that they used. Catherine is a puzzle game. It's a puzzle romance horror.
That checks out.
That released in 2011, and they apparently started making it before Persona 4 shipped. They were apparently designing the puzzles as they were wrapping up certification on Persona 4.
Keeping in mind, Persona 4 came out super late.
Oh yeah, it was even in Japan, it was a summer 2008 PlayStation 2 title.
Yeah.
And PS3 came out in 2006. So it came out in Japan 2 years on PS2, 2 years after the PS3 came out, and then I think the localization delay was only a couple months.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
It was a really fast localization turnaround.
Mm-hmm. And that decision probably looked a lot smarter before Sony pulled backwards compatibility out of PS3s going forward. They're like, it's fine, who cares? Oh.
So then, so they were working on Catherine, which is not an RPG, but it was the same. It was the same team, same artists, same sound designers, same programmers, same director, same producers, and then they made Persona 4 Golden for the Vita launch window in Japan, and then it came out a little bit later here, which is a full remake of Persona 4 that doesn't sacrifice anything. It's the definitive version of Persona 4. And then that was 2012.
Yes.
Because the Vita came out in 2012. And then, their next internally developed, wholly internally developed game was Persona 5 in 2016.
Right. In the interim, they had a hand in the development of weird spin-off games that use elements of other franchises or like Persona.
So worked with
Persona stuff.
Yes, so they worked on Persona Q with the Etrian Odyssey team, which is a crossover of Persona 3 and Persona 4 cast. It's also 2 80-hour-long campaigns on one cartridge because you hate yourself.
It's so long. That was 2014.
Getting your money's worth, though.
Yeah, it's not like the Persona... It's the opposite of the Persona 2 problem. They could pack too much onto one cartridge.
Yes.
And then... And so much voice acting, too. And then... they made...
Arena was before that, actually.
Yeah. There was 2011... 2012 was the year of Persona 4 where they released Persona 4 the animation, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 4 Arena, which is a fighting game developed by Arc System Works, currently most notably known for Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yep. But basically the kings of anime fighters.
Yes. And then they made a sequel to that, which was Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, which had a separate story, and then you could pay $10 DLC to get the story from the first game in Arena Ultimax. By the way, all these games have stories and are canon. And then you had the swan song for Persona 4 was Persona 4 Dancing All Night, which was mostly internally developed by P Studio with assistance from the Hatsune Miku team.
God damn it.
Which is a rhythm game on Vita. And that came out in 2014.
Sega was a mistake.
No, 2015. That was a 2015 game.
Are all the canons, like, do they make sense? Or is there, like, some guy in an office that's, like, losing his shit because he's like, that did not gel with what was said in the last game?
So...
Persona Q gets close to that.
Yeah, Persona Q is the tenuous one. Persona 4... So, let's put Q aside. Persona 4 has a beginning, middle, end, and epilogue with Golden. And then Persona 4 Arena takes place a couple months after that, and Arena Ultimax takes place like a week after Arena. Like, it's immediately after. And then Persona 4 Dancing All Night takes place like a year after that. And it's everyone after high school, basically, getting back together.
Yeah.
And then Persona Q is...
time travel and weirdness.
Okay, so during the school festival in Persona 4, they all got transported to an alternate dimension where time didn't pass the same, and also the Persona 3 cast is there, because they had something similar during their storyline.
Even though they don't take place at the same time. But they're the same age now.
Yeah, they take place 2 years apart. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, nobody remembers it.
Yes, also...
And also, here's 2 characters that don't even exist in the other universe.
Yes, so, yes, Persona Q is the nonsense one, but all the rest are all canonical and logical.
By the way, if you've ever wondered what an Etrian Odyssey game would be like with, 20 characters, there's your answer.
More than 20.
It's ridiculous.
Yes, and then... But Persona 5 development started before Catherine shipped. It started in 2010. The game took 6.5 or so years to make. It started with them developing their own engine exclusively for the PlayStation 3. And they built it, and they tried a bunch of things and scrapped them, and they've shown a lot of the the early prototypes and the early work. It didn't even start as a Thief story, I don't think. I think it started in the style of 3 and 4. Then they stopped making that because they were worried about the repetitious nature of these games.
I thought I was reading that the plan was like a backpacking.
Yes, they were going to go backpacking. The second prototype was they're going to go backpacking in the wilderness or something.
Yeah, it was supposed to be not even in Japan. It was supposed to be like some kind of backpacking expedition.
Yeah, traveling the world.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's where I remember reading the thing about the tsunami was that was the original plan. But then when the tsunami hit, there was, I don't know if you want to say patriotism or just
yeah, they wanted to return to Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also the fine print on that story is they also started prototyping it and realized how expensive that game would be to make, to create environments for all over the world. So then they decided they were going to make a Thief story based on some famous Japanese shows.
Arsene Lupin.
Yeah, Lupin the Third. And so, then they started with that, and we'll come back later to some of the stuff that they even after they made that, they still scrapped 20 different things and changed so much, because also the tech was taking so long to make that they were just set, they were working, Persona 4 Golden did not take the full team the full time. They were working, there was a team making this engine and other teams trying to come up with ideas, and this game, I wouldn't say development hell, but it was a very long development period.
I mean, their initial announced release was winter 2014.
Yes, they announced extremely optimistically, as I like to put it, working on a game that had a projected release window of 2014. And then, of course, the PlayStation 4 comes out. Well, our engine now has to support PlayStation 4. They did say that now they have this engine and they know how to use it, so they said right after Persona 5 came out in Japan, before it even came out in the West, we're working on Persona 6, and do not expect this to take another 6 years. I honestly would not be surprised if we're recording this in March 2018, I would not be surprised if we hear within the next 4 months we get an announcement for Persona 6.
E3?
No,
it'd be a stream event that they host themselves.
Yes, it would be a Japanese event for sure.
It'll take 4 hours.
It'll be a concert is what it'll be.
Do you think so? Because wasn't the last one here's 8 other games, and then finally at the very end, also we're making Persona 5?
The last one was a live concert where they announced Persona 5 existed. It was a live concert that they tied into announcing Ultimax, Q, Dancing All Night, and 5.
Because it went on forever.
And they trolled everyone during that entire live stream by they had hosts, and they were projecting the trailers on a big TV out in Japan, and the stream was from another building, and it was the host standing in front of the screen so you could barely see it, just commenting vaguely on what she could see.
It's just a nightmare.
I love it. But no, the last game announcement was a live concert where they announced Persona Q2 and the 2 dancing games. Yes?
So it wouldn't be unrealistic to think that it would be the same cast for 6 then if 3 and 4 were the same.
No, 3 and 4 were not the same cast.
No, they were
they
just
were?
thematically
Okay.
similar.
Yeah, it was same engine. They took place in the same universe 2 years apart, but like Persona 3 took place in Iwatodai, which was like a big metropolitan city, and then fictional. And then Persona 4 took place in the fictional city of Yasuinaba, which was very rural Japanese country.
It was the sticks.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was wholly separate cast. Persona 3 is the game where characters put guns to their head to summon and shot themselves to summon personas. Persona 4, they just used tarot cards. Persona 5, they ripped masks off.
Yeah, they dialed it way down.
They dialed it way down, and then as soon as they went to HD, they're like, "Oh no, what if blood flew out of that when they ripped their mask off?"
Yeah, that was great. Still not great.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't like too realistic. I mean, blood doesn't fly that much.
No, but also in Persona 3, it wasn't realistic, but it was still enough to cause a moral panic in the West. Because these are teenagers shooting themselves in the head hundreds of times throughout the game.
Yes, over and over again.
Every single attack, they're shooting themselves in the head. And the camera pans to them.
Oh yeah, you
focuses
get
on
a
that.
nice. It frames the shot for you. Let me show you this. Hold on. Take a second. There it is.
You should really see them mimicking suicide.
Yeah.
I just chalked it up as a cultural thing. It's okay. Don't worry.
It's
about
not.
It's not a cultural thing.
No, it was regarded as weird everywhere.
it. Okay.
Like, they had to, like, do a press tour of explanations in Japan. That was not a cultural thing.
That's where you need somebody in your company going like, "Hey, let's do something different."
Well, art doesn't always have to feel good.
I mean, no. But if you're having to explain your art, you've probably already lost.
It's true. Art is the best when it comes with a full explanation.
That's right.
Yes, so Persona 5. Also, most Megami Tensei, the demons, or as they're known in the Persona series, the Shadows and Personas. I seriously forget sometimes that they're called Shadows in the Persona games. They are frequently based on, like, all sorts of world religions and mythologies. Like Persona 4, you would get Izanagi and Izanami as primary players in that story, which is the Japanese creation myth. But in Persona 5, you just get a bunch of famous fictional thieves throughout history.
Yeah, it's like the main
Yeah, you get like Arsene,
personas. Yeah, Zoro, Milady de Winter.
yes, Goemon,
Yeah.
Carmen, Billy the Kid.
Yep. Pope Joan.
Yes, I am.
Speaking of our earlier conversation, with just going to Wikipedia and just going through names, that's pretty much how that seemed to go down.
Was like, what are some famous thieves?
And they got through 3 and they're like, shit.
Yeah, they got Lupin, they got Goemon, and they got Carmen, and because those are 3 pretty well known in Japan, and then the rest, like, my favorite thing about this was there's a live stream where they showed a trailer that introduced in Japan that introduced Carmen, I believe it was. No, it wasn't Carmen. It was Joanna. It was the big trailer that blew out the rest of the cast of the main party members, and so it showed Makoto getting on the bike, and so the host of the stream were asking the director Hashina-san, like, "Hey, so who's that bike?" And I said, "Oh, it's Joanna, based on like Pope Joan." And then the host was like, "Who?"
Yeah.
And then Hashina was like, "Wait, what? You don't know?" And then just like this silence for like 10 seconds as like everyone's just like, "Wait, is this for real? This isn't scripted? Like, I have to sit here and explain this to you?" I'm like, "Thanks."
Is there any pushback in the West from the religious stuff? Like, I know I just read something about some video game or something used something from the Hindu culture and in kind of passing, and they kind of got upset about it, and I was just like, it's just a video game, like, calm down, you know.
They use Hindu culture. I haven't seen I haven't seen widespread upset. The one they absolutely do not reference Islam in any capacity.
No. And so the thing about you see Hinduism referenced a lot in Japanese cultural stuff, because a lot of the iconography sort of got weirdly transmuted through Buddhism and then through Chinese contact with Japan.
Yes.
So you see things like the four noble gods. I think it's the four.
Yeah.
Which have transmuted through multiple iterations coming out of India, and so it's not super difficult, or it doesn't seem super foreign to Japanese consumers. Like, some of the iconography ends up being the same, so you can sort of, for lack of a better word, sex it up a bit and throw it into your pop culture thing. They have shied away from that in Western religions in general. More recently, there are some. Persona 3 in particular gets a little in there.
So, about that, no one else on this call has played Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, so I will be, Actually, no. Screw it. I won't be too vague. There are multiple routes in that game. There's, multiple endings. There's, like, the law, chaos, etc. If you go... One of the routes... the final boss is the Judeo-Christian god Yahweh, and they do not pronounce his name in the voice acting. They put a record scratch in.
Right.
But that is very much you very much kill the Judeo-Christian god in one of the endings of that game.
No, that checks out. That seems like a kind of SMT sort of thing to do.
Yeah, it's like they haven't moved too far away from it.
No.
Is that the 3DS game?
Yes.
That's the sequel to the 3DS game. Yes, they're both on 3DS. There's Shin Megami Tensei 4, and then its sequel, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse.
Okay, so it's just 4 that I've received 2 copies of last week that I need to figure out to do. But
what you need to do is you need to go to Google Maps and memorize the map of Tokyo before you start playing.
Kinda.
That's a whole other podcast about them making a game that is meant for people who know the map of Tokyo already and then localizing it.
That seems fair.
Yeah, that's a really smart decision.
I mean, even in Persona 5, to get us back towards the topic,
yes.
there is a little bit of up their own ass going on with some of the places. Like, did you think about this a little bit? Because there's a couple moments when I was in that game where I'm like, okay, the fact I was here, because I'd been there about 6 months earlier, I'm like, actually is helping me get around what they're trying to have me do.
Oh, the opening scene where you have to make the train commute without any waypoints.
Yeah.
Where one of the very first objectives is, like, I don't know, get to the, like, what's the...
Find Shijun?
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, I don't know, make the train connection.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well, you're screwed if you're playing this in the West. Like, you're just gonna have to go up against every single exit until you find it. Like,
right.
You can always fast travel after that. You never have to make that train connection again. But the fact is, like, the second thing it has you do after the cold open, the in media res cold open, is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I can attest to being one of those players who has no idea what Tokyo looks like, and I think I went to every corner of the map trying to figure out. And I think there was even, like, I think you get off the train and then you have to go upstairs and then you have to go, like, downstairs again to somewhere else.
That's very accurate.
And that's 100% realistic.
Yeah, and there's no indication that stairs are involved at all, so you're just walking
signs.
Around. Yeah.
The textures are just in Japanese.
Yes.
That's right.
They localize the train signs.
Yes.
And following reality, there was like a million just NPCs walking around, so you really didn't know where you were going because there was people in your way.
What's not following reality, though, is that 3 of the platforms aren't under construction in a way that you can't get to them because the Olympics are happening.
They say a lot of times, they reiterate a lot, especially in Western interviews, that, like, we're sorry, when we make these games, we don't think about anyone but Japan. And you get to that point, and you're just like, oh, no shit, you don't say. You mean to tell me you made a game where the second thing you do is make a connection on the Japanese train line, and you're not thinking about the Americans playing this?
Like, maybe do something somewhere to help out.
Oh, maybe make the waypoint just say, like, I don't know, go to the J line or something. It could just be as simple as that.
Knowing the places, did you feel it was more impactful, like what was happening in those places?
So what's interesting about this game versus 3 and 4 is that it's a real place. It's in Tokyo.
Yes. It's not fictional cities.
Right.
Except, well, the neighborhood he lives in it's a fictional
It's
name
fictional
based
in the
on
way
a
that
real
Kamura-
neighborhood.
It's real.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fictional in the same way that Yakuza's places are fictional.
yeah.
Like, I was walking through Tokyo and found the parking lot from Yakuza 4. Like, it's, yes, this isn't a real place, but I'm like, oh, this is the exact parking lot from that video game.
Yes.
So, but everything else is real. So, like, there are places that they are naming off that you can travel to in town that are real places. And it's,
Jimbocho, etc.
yeah, like, so that actually gives a little bit more impact. Because it's like, oh, this is a place I have been to. Now, if I grew up there, that impact might feel really different. That might make it feel a little bit less weird, or a little, not weird is probably not the word I want.
It'd feel more
Familiar?
No. Yeah.
It'd feel more cartoony too, though, because it would the differences would stand in much sharper relief.
It's like if you grew up in New York City and then you played The Division.
Yeah, like well, this is very strange.
Yeah, I can list every single liberty you've taken.
Yeah.
Or like San Francisco and Watch Dogs 2 or something like that.
Well, it felt to me that it was like the stuff that they were doing would be something that a tourist would go to Tokyo and do.
A lot of it was, but it's also the stuff that a person, I mean, not just a foreign tourist, like a Japanese tourist would go and do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Destiny Land.
Yeah, that
Because Disney is expensive.
it's and not super easy to get to.
Yes.
The bookstore that they go to, which ends up
in
being
Jimbocho.
is kind of touristy in a weird way.
Yeah.
But there's just a ton of people over that part of town, and they sort of copy it pretty faithfully. But they did avoid,
yeah.
but they avoided some of the more like obvious spots. Like you're not going up Tokyo Skytree, which may have still been under construction when this game started.
I was surprised that Harajuku is an environment that your characters can go to, but it is not a environment that you can walk around, because that felt like a very natural fit.
That area is a nightmare, though.
Yeah, but so is Shibuya.
No,
so Shibuya Crossing.
Harajuku's a unique nightmare because it's really tight. It's it's very, very tight, whereas Shibuya is crowded, but it's open.
Yes.
If you're claustrophobic, Harajuku will murder you. Also, there's millions of crepes.
Yes, there's crepes.
It's a weird place.
Don't get me started on the crepes in Persona 5. I can write a... Look.
There's not nearly enough of them.
No, all I can... Let me put it this way. There is one scene, which is the only scene in which An and Makoto have a conversation just to themselves that is not about the Phantom Thieves, and it is about crepes, and the internet has latched onto that damn conversation.
It's so anime that it's two girls talking about crepes.
You're
talking about crepes, the pancakes, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then there was the pivotal moment of how they figured out Goro was the bad guy.
Pancakes.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'd go for some pancakes right now.
But isn't that expected in a game like that, though?
To a degree. This game, in a weird way, leaned into a different kind of... I mean, all three of the Persona games...
It's way different anime than 3 and 4.
Yeah, like, 3 and 4 lean into more, like, action stuff. Like, the themes they touch on, how the characters are portrayed, how they act. I mean...
Persona 4, for being this... Of the 3, 4, 5, 4 is the most grounded, even though you're dealing with, like, supernatural fog. Like... It is way more It is significantly more grounded than 3, which was, I don't know, there's a 25th hour every day that only some people can experience, and all the rest turn into coffins. And also, there's this 255-story tower in the middle of your school that only appears during this 25th hour.
Also, and everyone's gonna die.
And also, put these guns to your head, teenagers.
But...
And then...
3 also feels more, or excuse me, 4 also feels more grounded because of its setting.
Yes, where it's just like, oh no, here's just quiet rural town.
Right. Whereas, and it was kind of going for being boring. Like that was sort of that was one of the themes, was like how boring it was out in the hinterlands.
It's like a lot of the characters are like, well, what do you do in this town? Well, we go to the Walmart.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, like, what do you do after you're done with Walmart? Well, sometimes we go to our classmates' hot springs, or we go to the shopping district and eat at this steak stand.
Yeah, like,
and then what do you do after that? You go home and you do your homework and then you go to sleep.
Yeah, it's a boring place, and of course the every Persona game 3, 4, and 5 basically has your character being sent there,
for the most insane, for increasingly stupid reasons.
Oh yeah, but
well, actually no. 4 is probably the most normal reason is, I don't know, your parents are working overseas for a year and they just don't want to take you.
3, you were sent there because this is the school you're going to now.
3 is your parents died in a lab explosion.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that dumbass reason.
And so you were orphaned, so this school will take you.
It's coincidentally this school for people who have this crazy power that you don't know about yet, that you have.
Coincidentally, this school, which is owned by the family that ran the lab.
Yeah, as if this were a setup.
And then Persona 5 is, I don't know, this candidate for prime minister accused you of sexual harassment, and what are you gonna do? So your parents just kind of gave in and sent you away
to Tokyo, where you're definitely not gonna get into trouble. Oh wait,
it's like
of the worst places they could have sent you, they found it.
Let's just send our kid.
Send him to Osaka.
From the sticks to Tokyo, unsupervised.
And that's another weird reversal, because most of them it was the main characters going from a bigger place to a smaller place. Even in 3.
Yes. Because in 3, yeah, you're going from Tokyo to Iwatodai.
Yeah, a second-tier city.
Yes. You're going to a smaller city, and you're in a dorm. And then Persona 4, you're going to go live with your uncle, not from Tokyo, but from the city.
Yes,
which is what they just
said. And it's urban enough that everybody knows about it when you go talk. Like,
yes.
We're from there.
Yes, from the city to basically the countryside, and then here, you're just going out straight up to Tokyo, baby.
That's right.
I just assumed you were expected to come up with your own backstory for the main character.
No, they touch on it at the very beginning.
Yeah,
usually.
no, it's.
But do they?
Yeah,
yeah. It's why Shido is like. It's like the primary driving factor in the beginning of the game for like, oh, Shido is the person who got you a criminal record. Like, you moved to Tokyo as the criminal record because your character saw him harassing a woman, and you walked up and said something, and
also I think you decked him.
Yeah, you push him over.
Like, you push him over, and then he fell,
and then he threatens to sue.
Yeah, so he sues for physical assault.
Yeah,
and so instead, your parents just agree to send you to Tokyo unsupervised.
Well, I was thinking more
to live by yourself. Like, keep in mind that.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like what happens before that, though. That's what you have to make up. Because I just, in my mind, I'm like, well, he has no parents. His parents died and left him some money, and now he's got like an apartment. And he was working.
Yeah. A lot of the context of like what kind of town they came from usually comes from conversations with the other characters.
Yeah, like the Sojiro Sakura, the curry shop owner, says at the beginning, just like, I agreed to take you because of your parents.
Yeah, in 4, basically everybody's asking you about what it's like to live in the city because they're bored there.
The parents he never calls, by the way.
No, I mean,
not at all. They're overseas. The phone charge would be insane.
Yeah.
So let's just, and this is before computers. That game takes place in 2011. The internet didn't exist then.
4, yes.
That was a forward-thinking game that didn't project just how fast technology would move.
To be fair, like in 3 and 4 are probably more focused on like just this is the place you're in, whereas 5 feels more focused like this is a place.
This is the time we're in.
Yeah, and this is we're not creating a new place here. Like, we don't have to give as much context because it's Tokyo.
Yeah, Persona 3 takes place in 2009. Persona 4 takes place in 2011. Persona 5, they say it's 20 XDX, a la Mega Man.
Because they didn't know when the game was going to release.
Except the calendar matches the 2016 calendar perfectly. So it's 2016.
Yeah.
And then there's also a lot of Persona 3 and Persona 4 characters that are throughout the game. And it's like, oh, this is what Rise is doing.
And stuff.
Or if you watch the TV in the curry shop, every couple days it'll cycle like, oh, here's a news report about like Akihiko Sanada from Persona 3 and what they're up to. Oh, here's what Fuka's doing.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you can extrapolate. Yeah, this definitely takes place in 2016.
But I was just clarifying, they're not just like walking around.
Oh, yes.
They're not just going to like walk into the cafe.
Yes, Persona 3 and 4 characters don't show up, for the most part, as like actual character models running around. It's not like Persona 4, where you literally go on a class trip to the school from Persona 3, and you meet a bunch of the social links from Persona 3, and get
God, I forgot about that bullshit.
And get like a 5-minute scene where you get lectured by one of the teachers from Persona 3 about the concept of personas and shadows.
Yes. So weird.
Persona 4 is a weird game, okay? The series is weird. Anyways, so that's the backstory for Persona.
Yeah, let's get back on topic. I want to go to bed sometime tonight.
To be fair, a lot of the artistic stuff was sort of in there too.
Okay, good.
We're jumping around.
Yep, we're getting stuff done. So
okay, I did want to talk a little bit about the art.
Yes.
And this is
oh my god.
This is a bit of a departure from the two previous games, and a lot of that might be because it's HD to start with. It certainly has an impact.
They have more processing power for animations.
Yeah, but the color depth is significantly higher in this game.
What if this game had HDR?
Oh, just quickly, is the PS3 version and the PS4 version significantly different?
So what the difference is, and Donald Terrio, who works on the site, played the PS3 version because he's staunchly against getting a PS4 because he lives in Canada and pays Canadian prices. It sucks to live
He's
in
going to have to just drive across the border and get one.
Yeah.
Smuggle it back in.
So the difference is that the PS3 version is locked at 720 and has some frame rate issues. The PS4 version is 1080 with a very steady frame rate, and a lot of the textures in the PS3 version are much blurrier.
Okay.
Yeah,
I had the exact opposite opinion of Donald. I'm a Canadian who refused to play the PS3 version because I had it in my mind that it was the inferior version, and I refused to play the inferior version.
Yeah, I mean it is a sacrifice, but it's playable.
Yes, it is the inferior version, but it's not. Yes, it is more akin to how Breath of the Wild is mostly the same.
Yeah, I mean it was originally a PS3 game.
Yes, it was built for PS3, came to PS4. The PS4 version is better because the PS4 is not only way easier to develop for, it is way more powerful.
Yeah, but the art and the design, to me,
Yes.
like even after the fact, I'm very happy I bought the PS4 because I would want to see that stuff in its best form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you got the benefit of playing it with a PlayStation 4 controller.
Yes.
Which is way better than the PlayStation 3 controller. It's not even a question.
Oh goodness.
The PS3 controller is one of the worst controllers I've ever used.
It's bad. It feels like it's going to fly out of your hands at any moment.
I would have had to have waited 3 weeks for my PS3 to update had I plugged it back in anyway. So that was the second reason behind getting some. Not that the PS4 was that much better, but it was a little bit better.
Yes. No, the PS4 version of this game. Oh, and the audio quality is higher.
Very happy.
Like it plays at like a higher bit rate, the voice acting and the music.
Yeah, so it's. But the point I was getting at, the color depth in this game is not something we've seen in this series.
Nope.
And the contrast.
Yes, there is, but that's only in the arena games.
Yeah.
Did the old ones, like it's? I know each character kind of had their own color palette.
Oh, yeah, each game, yeah.
That's something
three was blue, 4 is yellow, 5 is red.
Okay. Oh, I meant more like each character kind of has their own definitive color. Is that something that's happened before, or is this?
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah, I mean, every character in the series is essentially a color swatch. There's like 3 colors that sort of comprise their look. In some characters, it stands out more than others.
In Persona 3, they're like Junpei and the protagonist have the same color swatch, and like Mitsuru and Akihiko have the same color swatch. Like,
yeah, because part of that's because they're wearing uniforms.
Yes, and it's also just like, hey, even when we're not wearing uniforms, this is our, like, Akihiko wears red and has white hair,
right?
And Mitsuru wears white and has red hair.
Yeah.
So like,
but at the same time, that was also intentional because they sort of pair those two off as like this is a unit.
Yes.
Because you almost always, if you're dealing with one, you're dealing with the other.
Yes. They're the upperclassmen characters.
But yeah, in 4, everybody has a distinct color palette, and that you can break down to about 3 or 4 colors. So like Chie is green, yellow, and brown.
Yeah.
Teddy is blue, white, red.
The only possible exception would be like Yosuke, which I guess is like brown and black.
Yeah, because he's wearing a uniform, and he's not basically breaking every rule of his uniform like everyone else.
Yes, it's like, I don't know. Here's the mandatory school uniform. I don't know. I'm just gonna wear green, and I'm just gonna wear red instead, and no one's gonna say anything.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much thematic as it is just like this is a way to create visual identity for these. It's just a design thing.
Yeah.
But the whole world has that level of contrast in Persona 5.
Yes.
Which in Persona 4, there's a weird, like, in 3, part of it's because the PS2 game being up-resed, and part of it's just, like, they put, like, a Vaseline filter over the game. It's like, okay, there's just this kind of, like, everything's a little bit washed out, a little bit foggy. Persona 4, sometimes it's a lot. So when they put the fog on screen, it gets a lot foggy.
There's so much fog in Persona 4. It's a story thing. It's not like Turok on the N64.
It is, but also the game's color palette sort of amplifies it even more to the point where it's like this is too much. It's
yellow and foggy.
This is too much. It's a very earth tones colored game, which is part of it being in the sticks thing.
It's such a good game. Anyways,
but Persona 5 explodes visually. Yes. It tears off of the screen. And it makes sense. If you were to make a game, set it in Tokyo, and then not make it visually pop off the screen, you've pretty much failed.
Especially after after the Radiant Historia team went and made Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yeah.
Which was like, oh, well, if you're not matching this, at least,
yeah.
What are you doing?
And that game explodes with color in a different way.
Yes, but also just in terms of like vibrancy of like the cities.
Yeah.
Like if like Tokyo Mirage Sessions was a big game, but Persona 5 is a big game for Atlus. It is Atlus's marquee franchise.
Right.
And if Persona 5 did not meet their own standards,
yes,
there would have been hell to pay. But then you look at like SMT5, which we've seen like a trailer and a half, and it looks like an SMT game. It's dark. It's grim. There's lots of grays and browns and destroyed buildings. So,
and am I the only one that thinks the gameplay actually looked better than like the anime cutscenes?
You are not the only one.
Yeah, I think some of the anime cutscenes don't feel great. I'm not
sure. The cutscenes look better than they did in P3, P4. Well,
yeah, but they should.
Were disasters.
Yeah, but like, there's something like there's a couple that are really good. And there's a couple that I'm like, who does them? What studio does them?
Oh, I think it's A1. I think for Persona 5 they got the team that actually makes the anime, which would be like Aniplex. Let me check 1 second.
Yeah, it's just like, but I think I know why they just didn't go all in engine. Part of that is the PS3, and part of that is there's just stuff that's easier to do if you animate it by hand. I would not be surprised if a P6 rolls around and the anime cutscenes are diminished by doing stuff in engine.
Yes. So about this, Production IG is the anime studio.
Yeah, that checks out from the visual style.
Yes, and there is over 1 hour of anime cutscenes throughout the game.
Yep. And some of them are not good.
Yes, in Persona 4, there's about 20 minutes, and they're all extremely off-model.
Yeah.
Like, you get characters that are like, oh, you're 30 feet tall in this scene.
The last scene, the train scene, is real bad in P4. Which is bad, because it's supposed to be this emotionally impactful scene, and you're
they
just
redid
like...
it in Golden, and they didn't fix too much.
You're just like, Yosuke, what happened to your face?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think this game works because in motion, it just looks so good, and there's so much color, and there's so much life in the game. When they actually went and hand animated that, it feels like a lot of the life got left out. They just drew the main characters and called it a day. The opening scene in the casino has good style, but that's just because they basically watched a bunch of the new series of Lupin when they drew it, and they're just like, just do this, make this happen, and they said okay.
There's that scene, and then I thought the very last scene after the credits,
in the van.
Yeah, in the van. I thought that was more well done than most of the other animated cutscenes.
Yeah.
Well, kind of had to too, because that was kind of the.
You say they had to, but we were just mentioning about Persona 4 was that equivalent.
Yeah, it was.
And they did not.
So Saran, do you remember about that scene? Do you remember what I sent you as a message immediately after I declared that I was free?
Yeah, I think he said something like, "Oh shit, bring on the spin-offs."
Oh, yeah, that was true. I did say that. But one of the follow-on comments was, I think I said something along the lines of, "These games aren't very realistic." To which I got like a prompt, and my response was, "There's no way this dude is leaving Tokyo after basically having all of these women come basically kidnap him." He's like, "You know what, Mom and Dad, I'll just stay here. I'll finish my school career here. I'm good." It's like, but it's the same shtick every single game. The main character, well, no, okay. Well, 4 and 5, it's the same shtick. The main character's like, "Yeah, peace out, y'all."
1, 2, and 3 have different scenarios at their endings, and especially 1 and 2, I'm not going to spoil because I cannot assume that anyone listening to this
4 and 5, though, it's like, yeah, I've made this great life for myself over the last year. Peace. It's weird.
Was that the way? But I thought it was kind of open ended. That it was more of a summer thing.
5 is
for 5.
No, it's time. It's 5. It's time for me to go home.
Right.
We're gonna go on a road trip on our way, taking you back home. You'll come back and visit.
Yeah.
You'll come back and hang out. Like, Persona 4 is literally the protagonist getting on a train and leaving all his friends behind. And so in all the spin-offs and all the sequels for Persona 4, it's a lot of get the gang back together, get the gang back together, get the gang back together. And for dancing, get it together one last time. In 5...
although I did promise Makoto I was going to go to her school with her.
It's true.
Well, there are a lot of promises you can make in Persona 5. We'll get to that.
You can promise a lot of girls you're going to go to school with them.
Hope
you're all going to the same school.
That would be really interesting.
I mean, apparently it worked just fine in high school.
Well, they're all going to be police commissioners, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially Haru. But the interesting thing is, I was honestly expecting, like, okay, so Persona 6 is going to come, and we're going to get sequel games to Persona 5, and I'm kind of all for it because most of the party is alive at the end of the game, and they've become this close-knit group of friends, and not all of them have had a lot of time to shine on camera because of some pacing problems, or some pacing decisions that I am not as big of a fan of, I should say. Specifically, let's not introduce Haru until 80% of the way through the game.
Hilariously late.
It almost seemed like an afterthought to me.
It's like, what the hell are you guys...
Who's the last character introduced in 4?
In 4, it was Naoto, and Naoto was introduced calendar month before Haru was, I believe. 3, by 60% of the way through the game, you have the final party, like, structure. Like, the characters who have left the party are going to leave the party, and all the characters who are ever going to be in your party are in the party by 60% of the way through. So most of the back half of Persona 3, you have the entire party.
And see, I don't mind Naoto, even though Naoto comes a bit later, because they introduced Naoto earlier.
Yes, Naoto is incredibly important to the story of the game from like 3 in-game months in, and just joins your party late.
Yeah, I mean, they
like Akechi comes in to the story in Persona 5 really early,
like day 4.
And just joins your party late. But Haru, like,
shows up out of fucking nowhere.
Haru shows up
and then disappears.
And his is brought throughout, like, in different scenes for like 3 weeks, just very faintly, and then just comes in, and then is just in your party, and then the second you finish the dungeon and go celebrate, you're in, like, barreling towards the end of the game mode.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's when you watch her dad die on television.
She parachutes out of the game on her first reveal and then comes back in later.
It's so, like, anyways, they did Haru a massive disservice, but she's a very strong character. Also, the fact that, we'll get to that later. But I was like, okay, I'm really excited for the sequel games, because obviously they're gonna make them because this is what this team does. And then they announced, we're really changing up the development team, and most of the Persona 5 teams disbanded. I was like, okay, well, that's not the end of the world, right? Spin-off games are still definitely happening. And they announced 3 games, 2 of which are Persona 5 related, which is Persona Q2 and Persona 5 Dancing Star Night. I was like, awesome. Persona 4 Dancing All Night may have had a very weird story mode, but had a story mode. And they're like, no story mode. This game also isn't canon at all. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, but they're still going to make... Is the Persona 3 Dancing one the same deal?
Yes, it is. So, Persona 3 Dancing, for reasons that would be very obvious when you look at the cast of characters, here's the plot of Persona 5 Dancing Star Night. Straight out of their marketing. Ren Amamiya, which is the canon name for Joker, falls asleep one night. When he awakes in his dream, he's in the Velvet Club, which is a disco run by Caroline and Justine. They tell him he has to dance with his friends.
Just cause.
And that's the story. That's the premise of Persona 5 Dancing Star Night. And Persona 3 Dancing Moon Knight is the same, except for the Velvet Club is run by Elizabeth. And who's a better host for a disco club, let me just tell you that. Caroline and Justine do not sound like they would have much fun in a disco. But you have Kamyu mode, which is basically they added extra confidants and social links basically between all different characters. That's what Kamyu mode is I don't know, just go build a relationship and see new interaction scenes. But there's no overarching story.
Yeah. And then of course the Q series is funky non-canonical nonsense.
Persona Q2 is going to be a 2019 3DS game.
Yeah. Why wouldn't that? Why would you? Hey, now there's 2. We got another one last week.
Yeah. Nintendo announced that there are multiple RPGs coming to 3DS in 2019.
So, Atlas isn't giving up on it.
Yeah, no. Atlas announced in September 2017 that they were making a game tentatively titled Persona Q2. Please stay tuned for information.
God.
So people are like, I saw one prediction for this last Nintendo Direct being like, maybe we're going to get a release date for Q2. It's like, they haven't even given us a title or an image.
Yeah.
This thing is 2019. Anyway, so these spin-off games, maybe they'll pick up from the ending. Who can say?
Well, now, since we're on the topic of the dancing games, it's a good segue into maybe we can get in just a little bit of talk about the music before the first first break we take. So
yeah, I love the music in this.
I'm looking at the names, and I'm going to pass on. Yes.
Okay, so I'll just say the line real quick. The songs were primarily composed by Shoji Meguro, who leads the Persona composition and is part of the Atlas sound team. Vocals were done by a soul and R&B singer named Lynn. They like to get a different, relatively unknown singer for each of these games, and then blow up their careers.
It's the cheapest way.
So what I'm saying is, Lotus Juice, Yumi Katamura, and Shihoko Hirata all have extremely successful solo careers right now, thanks to their roles in the Persona games. And then English lyrics were written by a man named Benjamin Franklin.
God damn it.
Straight up. And the lyrics, most of them make sense this time, which is a massive improvement.
Because we did some research before the show and determined that Benjamin Franklin is not just a name of a Japanese person found on Wikipedia. This is
Now, none of us have seen his birth certificate.
Well, I've seen his picture. He's definitely not a Japanese dude.
Yes.
So there's the real chance that this person might actually natively speak English.
So, real quick, in Persona 4, to give you a taste of what lyrics they come up with when they don't have a native English speaker writing the lyrics or checking them, in Persona 4's battle theme, you get the lyrics, yeah, flooded apple pie, left until somebody cries, goddamn always talking shizzle, behind man, get left behind.
That's
part of the main battle theme in Persona 4.
That's a crime. That's a word
I don't know,
crime.
yeah, flooded apple pie, left until somebody cries. I don't know what's confusing about that, James.
I'm gonna say the words are actually, to be honest, flooded apple pie sounds like some weird recipe you'd make where you put too much apple in it when you make it.
But
Just don't focus on the lyrics. Just keep the eye on the prize in those battle scenes.
In fact, that is a common problem with apple pies, is that it ends up with too much water in it. There you go.
But yes, no, Persona 5 lyrics actually make sense. They were just not intended to.
What a shame.
They accidentally make sense sometimes.
It's a shame. We could have had all kinds of stuff.
So, here's a fun question for David. So this is your first Persona game.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the main stinger, like of the songs that are very clearly enunciated, like "You'll Never See It Coming." Give me a gut instinct. What percentage of the lyrics do you think you actually understood? That you'd be able to write down were said.
That line is probably, like, if you gave me a piece of paper and said write down all the words that you remember, that line's probably it.
Oh wow.
But,
list.
but it's kind of an unfair question in the sense that I don't focus on lyrics when I listen to music. Mm-hmm. So if you were asking someone else, you probably get a better answer. Like I'm really not.
You'll never see it coming.
Yeah.
You see that my mind is too fast for eyes.
Okay, so now that you say that, I hear that. Like,
yeah,
but I don't. It doesn't remember. Like,
yeah,
it
that
doesn't
plays all the time, which is why I thought that would be the one that people know.
And the backing track for that one is low relative to the singing.
Yes, it's not like my favorite is I found someone who had never heard the song before, and I put on the song that plays in the casino dungeon, and asked them to write out what they thought was being said, and it was very different. It actually starts with like champagne flutes and dinner suits that keep your focus away from the cheating hands.
Yeah.
Tell me, and it's like they were not hearing any of that.
Nope. I mean,
they had to stare at the words and hear it to be able to process what was being said.
Japanese people singing English words is the best.
But the music, I love the music.
Oh yes.
I downloaded.
The soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack.
It's on iTunes, which is mind blowing because that's not a thing that happens.
No,
what do you mean it's on iTunes?
It's on iTunes. It's $30.
Oh, okay.
Now
so
that
it's
is
not
a
on
thing
Apple
that
Music
happens.
then. Okay, because
Well,
I
yes,
have Apple Music and I was trying to find it and it wouldn't. So
It's three discs, 110 songs.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's $30. It's the price of 3 albums.
Yeah, because I think my favorite was the Shido cruise ship music.
Oh, like the Ark music? Yes. That music is good. Yeah. I liked the Rivers in the Desert.
Yeah, which is the only other song that's pretty clear to hear what the lyrics are.
No, Wake Up, Get Out There.
Yeah, I guess.
And Life Will Change. Kind of. Less so Life Will Change. I have a lot of Persona music. Surprise! And
so we talked about each game has its color palette and each game has its style. Each game also has its musical style.
Yes, Persona 3 was R&B hip-hop.
Yes.
Which honestly suited that really well.
Yeah.
Persona 4 was retro pop, which also fit it really well. Persona 5 was less.
Yeah, it was
singular.
just like, this is the music that I wanted to make in this game.
Yes. A lot of the music is acid jazz, which is an existing genre. It's just it's a subgenre. But then, like, I don't know, Tokyo Daylight. That's not acid jazz at all.
No.
And then, like, a lot of, like, the battle music for, like, boss battles, they're just wailing guitars. That's also not acid jazz. So, like, relative to 3 and 4, it really doesn't stick with an audio identity.
And I think part of the reason why I liked 3's music the most is because it's so committed to its identity.
Yes.
Even more than 4, like, it's in there.
It is every song, whether it is a good song or not, is R&B hip-hop, and you are going to enjoy the fact that every time you enter combat, you get to hear, baby, 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 oh!
And you're like, please give me a different song. For the love of God, give me any other song.
This is the song.
There's 160 floors of this song.
No, there's over 250.
Oh, God.
But, I thought almost all the Persona 5 music worked. It's just when you listen, like when you pull up the 110 track soundtrack and you hit play all, like you're going back and forth quite a lot.
And
it all works in context.
And a lot of the songs you're probably going to hear and go like, oh yeah, I remember that song now.
Yeah, this 22-second track plays when a suspicious person is on screen.
Oh, this is a song that plays when you're standing around in church talking about friggin' shogi.
Important battles.
Yeah, this is the song that plays when you play the NES game Punch Ouch.
Yes.
Well, even Big Bang Burger had its own music.
Yep, Big Bang Burger had its own theme, and that was my ringtone for a bit because I found that so hilarious. Honestly,
that is a haunting thing that sometimes happens when you're in Japan. You'll hear, like, this track just plays all the time in this area. Why is this on loop? Oh, God.
The storefront is playing its theme song. This is a thing that happens in Japan.
This poor staff has to hear this song for 8 hours straight.
Like, even on, like, the 3DS, like, the fact, and the Wii, like, when, like, there's, like, the OS level music when you hover over a title. Like, you ask Nintendo, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, this is just, like, a storefront song. Yeah. Like, this is where we got that inspiration. This is, like, the little jingle that plays when you are standing in front of the 7-Eleven.
This is the Donkey theme.
But
wouldn't you like music to tell you that you're in Walmart?
No, I'm good.
If you're the Don Quixote, you know.
Yeah, you know.
Because there's like $80 bottles of liquor next to cheap costume jewelry. You know.
But yeah, again, like, it's all over the place, but I really like it. You did mention Big Bang Burger. Big Bang Burger is honestly the moment in the pre-release coverage coming out of Japan, like the trailers and stuff, when I realized... No, you know what it was? It was E3 2016. Atlas had made their entire booth Persona 5, but weren't showing the game. Because... Atlas. And instead, similar to Metal Gear Solid 2's trailer, every hour on the hour they would roll an 18-minute B-roll of, here are activities you can do in Tokyo. And it's like, oh, here's here's customizing your guns. Here's eating a big burger. Here's going to the bookstore.
Right.
And it got to Big Bang Burger, and I just looked at glanced at the screen, saw that it said Big Bang Burger on it, and I just turned away, and I was like, that's all I need to see. This game is stupid. I'm in. Big Bang Burger. And then the fact that they made Big Bang Burger a central part of the plot. They're like, nah, this wasn't a one-off joke. This is one of the dungeons. One of the dungeons is based on Big Bang Burger.
Yes.
Well, and the dungeon was shaped as a burger, right? Partially. The spaceship.
Partially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can make the argument.
Yeah.
So we talked about it earlier, that these dungeons aren't random.
Yes.
So P3, P4, the dungeons are just like randomly laid out, and sometimes that means you just get absolute nonsense as your dungeon.
Are we getting into this fight right now?
It's not gonna be a fight.
Okay.
I'm stating facts. Like you do occasionally get floors in P3 and P4 where you're like, what the fuck?
Yes. Oh yes. No.
The stairs are right there. What's going on?
Yes. That's not where I think you're going.
No.
I think you're going somewhere.
Okay. Well, you can think that.
I'll wait.
Now, because the dungeons are not being generated randomly, they're able to do more with respect to like making them thematic, which a lot of time, which the cruise ship's a good example of that. The casino, to a certain degree, is a good example of that. I didn't really like moving around the casino.
The map system, the map was worst in the casino of all the dungeons.
Yeah. It was confusing, and it was laid out in a way that it was hard to tell exactly where you're at any given moment.
Yeah.
So they could do more with like reinforcing the theme in those. The themes really come to life in 3 and 4 still, but usually it's more because of the scenes that happen in
What the hell themes happen in Tartarus?
Well,
it's an ugly dungeon.
In 4.
Yes, there's only one song. There are 6 versions of this song, but there's only one song that plays in Tartarus. It's terrible.
Spooky is the theme that happens in Tartarus. Spooky happens in Tartarus. That's the theme.
And it all looks like a building that's just falling apart.
It looks like a school. There's lots of school-related things in it.
Yes. But then, yes, Persona 4 was the game that actually gave people dungeons, and then the dungeons are based on the person.
I thought the scenes they did in 4, because they had to be, did a better job representing the theme of the dungeon than they do in 5. But the overall design of the dungeons, they had more tools in the toolbox for 5.
Yes, because it's even in 4. They're all randomized. It's like, oh, here's the sauna, which is referencing this character's indeterminate sexuality, but it's still gonna be random dungeons.
Yeah,
random layouts. It'll be the same as in the castle.
Well, the dungeons were telling stories about the person too, right? Like the one that comes to mind for me is the Big Bang Burger with Okumura, where he saw his workers as robots.
Yeah,
and that he would just work them to the point where they would just break.
And then you find out at the very end why everything is sci-fi, and then you're just like, oh, maybe you're not the worst person. And then then he's the one that goes and dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're the one that had you're the one the game tried to redeem at the end. Like, you're a bad father, but you care about Haru, and like, all of this is because you remember playing sci-fi with her when she was a little kid, and
yeah. Whereas,
of course, you're going to redeem the one that you're going to kill.
Yeah. Whereas throughout, like, the Marukyou striptease in Persona 4.
God damn it! Yep.
That dungeon is. I mean, thematically, it does it. Like it's on point, but like the scenes are unsettling in a way that the Persona 5 doesn't give you mid dungeon. Like where it stops, and it's like, hey, guess what? We're gonna make you feel real awkward for about 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we got to this new floor. Oh, here's a conversation with a teenager, or like a high school girl who is acting like a stripper.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Because it's this weird, like, this is how she's seeing herself thing going on.
Yes.
But what it allows them to do is, well, they had to do something because they didn't have the ability to set up the really custom areas that they haven't.
Yes.
So they basically wrote these little.
They try and for.
There's a couple. I mean, there are a couple non-random places in the dungeons.
Yes, there are a couple where it's like, okay, when you get to this floor, this is how you have to go here, then here, then here, otherwise you're going to get warped around.
Or the entrance will be not random.
Yes.
Or like there may be like a mid floor that's not random.
For the most part, it's just random.
Yeah. But I almost wish they kind of did both, because some of those scenes are unsettling in really kind of beautiful ways.
Yes, and they mostly skip that in 5. I mean, you get like cut scenes and story beats in the middle of the dungeon.
Yeah, but it's more related to like what's happening in the dungeon. Like, oh, those guys have the key. We need to go get them.
Yes.
It's not so much like, oh wow, Chie, what the fuck's wrong with you? Because a lot of the dungeons in 4 especially and 5 are just like, hey, this is your character flaw magnified to 1,000.
Yes. Here's a dungeon literally based on your one biggest insecurity.
Yes.
whether it's sexuality, whether it's gender, whether it's privacy.
Yeah. I mean, so it's kind of a weird, like, two approaches to solving the same problem. In 4 they do it, or in 5 they do it by just saying we can do whatever we want with the visuals of the dungeon. We have
a huge budget.
We have infinite control, and we can design these things by hand. So let's do that. Whereas they had to be a little more creative in its predecessor,
Yes.
which I think was more impacting to me, in a way.
Yeah.
But
writing versus visual design.
yeah. But I mean, still, this is where this came up as a conversation of visual design. Like, damn, some of these dungeons look really good.
Hell yeah, they do. What was your? Everyone go around. What was your favorite dungeon visually? What was your favorite dungeon theme?
I mean, Egypt was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe the cruise ship, but I don't know if that was just a full experience. Like I was, like it was kind of that. Like I'm getting near the end. I got everybody. The music's great. Like
Yes.
I don't know if it's hard to say whether that was my favorite theme per se, but it might have been my favorite experience. There was a lot of
dungeon.
Yeah, favorite dungeon because there's a lot of boss battles in there too. Because you had to
and a lot of main story beats.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kanashiro's is interesting, but like I hated being in it.
Oh, Kanashiro is my favorite, at least, especially theme, but like also for multiple reasons. It's when I played through it the first time, because this is the bank,
Right.
When I played through it the first time, so I guess this is a good point for me to mention. So my way of experiencing Persona 5 the first time was I had preloaded it from Japanese PSN. It was going to go live at 10 a.m. on the 14th for me, because that's midnight in Japan, and for the 15th. And I had set everything up for Twitch, and I hit go the second the game launched, and I played the first 8 hours in one sitting, just straight through. And then I unplugged from Twitch, and I just kept playing. And because of that, and no strategy guide launched alongside this game in Japan.
Right.
So whenever I got stuck, the answer almost certainly wasn't online yet, because like I was watching strategy guides, like online wikis get filled out, and they were like in-game months behind me, and like there were a lot of things, like for instance, Sojiro's confidant is it caps out at rank 3 until you get Futaba in your party.
Right. So you're just wasting time otherwise.
And it never tells you, because it's not going to spoil it. The story's not going to spoil itself and be like, maybe I don't have everything I need yet. It doesn't do that. So I was like, wow, this must take a lot of like points to progress. And I got like I spent time with him like 3 times. I was like, something's up. And I googled it, and no one found anything. It's just a bunch of people being like, has anyone gotten to Sojido rank 4 yet? And like I asked some people who were playing the game on Twitter, and everyone just got back to me like, it must just take a lot of points. So you get things like that, which make the reveal pay off better. But then, like, the dungeons, like, you're seeing for the first time, there's no reference online, and you're solving all the puzzles yourself and working everything out. And the number puzzles work a little differently, slightly differently, in the Japanese version. So I was running through that, and I just really loved it. And you get through, like, the first half of that dungeon before you get to the big circle room, and I felt like that was the whole dungeon, and then I just get to the whole second half of this dungeon, which to me was really exciting. And then, whenever you replay the game, because I had made handwritten notes because I couldn't reference this stuff online. When I went back through the game a second time in a New Game Plus capacity, most of that dungeon, if you know the passwords, you can skip. So that dungeon becomes like one of the quickest on a replay. So I felt like that balance of the discovery plus the ease of replayability made it one of my favorite dungeons.
Yeah, I get that. I liked thematically what they did with Shido's building, taking the diet and turning it into the front of a cruise ship. But because it's so stupid.
Yes,
it's so stupid. The explanation for why it's a cruise ship is a little bit tortured. Because
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, the country's sinking. Is it sinking ship or?
But it's
only he can pilot it.
It's the second part though, where it's like, but only these people are also allowed. It's like what? That part was a little like
it's Noah's Ark.
Yeah,
but
like
for rich politicians.
It's like that part doesn't.
What? That's the most realistic thing in Persona 5.
Yeah, because they were the people that were helping him. They were all his lackeys.
Yeah, but
like, it was basically
it's almost
you help
implicit,
me and I'll
like,
keep you with me.
That's the only ones he wants to even survive.
Yeah, James,
yeah.
The most realistic part about Persona 5 is that the world is going to come to an end, and the Ark is going to have Elon Musk and his friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most realistic part about Persona 5, is that, it's the billionaires. Of course it is. But yeah, no, I feel like the dungeons, and the music obviously complements the dungeons a lot, with some exceptions. Man, I couldn't bring myself to care about the music in the desert dungeon, the pyramid dungeon.
I can't recall it for some reason.
It feels significantly more generic than most of the other melodies.
Really?
At least in my if it's fitting, but like it's not melodic. Or not melodic in the same way. Like you asked me what the bank theme is, and I can go bum ba da da dum bum 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 bum.
You're not talking Rivers in the Desert, are you?
No.
Okay. I was like, wait, what?
The pyramid, Futaba's dungeon.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one is the dungeon no one's mentioned yet, the art museum.
Yeah,
which I feel is the weak link in all the dungeons.
Yeah, and one thing about this game relative to 4 is that very rarely is it the characters whose palace you're in. It's usually someone associated with the characters.
Yes.
And honestly, Madarame just isn't there that much. Like he's there. They talk about him a lot, but he's not.
He's not present.
Yeah, he's a specter most of the game.
He's also just not that interesting.
No, he's an artist who's struggling with his vision, and so he's just relying on his students. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't know. That dungeon felt like the weak link.
Yeah, I think part of it is just like his sociopathic tendency isn't really that intense, and his clients, his students could just leave, and in fact some of them had, and that was one of the story beats was like, oh, they just left. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
But I did enjoy the interaction between An and Yuseki with where she went in. I think she was wearing like 20 layers of clothes or something.
Oh, that's one of my least favorite parts of the entire game, actually.
But it was funny and it's ridiculous.
I mean, that specific moment was, but also like the fact that they had built this character up as like, oh, I just went through a ton of sexual abuse and I'm really insecure about all this other stuff, and then immediately the very next chapter you get dialogue options like, oh no, you should show up naked for this thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just rescued you from sexual assault, but also, what if? And I was just like, are you kidding me?
Well, that was the part of that was, when I played that was what I was thinking too, is like, this is kind of a funny progression here that we just went from this to this. And that none of the male characters aren't seeming to put the connection together. But,
I mean, that checks out, but, I don't know. There were a couple things like that. An's character, I feel like, was got the shortest stick in terms of development. Not in terms of enough time on screen like Haru. Like,
she's on screen a lot.
Yeah, but her character development kind of starts and stops with Kamoshida.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of stuff that pulls back in where, like, the weird of her being an outsider. That comes up.
A couple things like, oh, you lived in America for a bit.
And she's half Japanese.
Yeah, she's half Japanese. And the Hawaii scene.
Oh, God.
Actually, this is a good time, I think, for our first intermission, and then we'll get into world building.
Sounds good. Alrighty, so so we'll take a short break, and when we get back, we'll discuss, like you said, the Hawaii scene. And we're back, and we're going to have a discussion about the world of Persona 5.
I'll say we already touched on it a little bit. We talked about the fact that this game takes place in a real place versus, a made-up place.
Honestly, we've talked about most of the stuff here, but it is worth noting this Hawaii scene. The localization robbed every single one of you of how beautiful this scene truly is.
So I'm guessing a lot of the original Japanese text deals with the fact that our party, except for Anna, doesn't speak any English effectively.
So I've showed you this. It's the cutscene.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There is a cutscene where, a fully 2D animated cutscene, where they fly into Hawaii, and Ryuji goes up to someone and to get like his passport stamped or something, and he says something in English that's like just like hello there, how are you, like in like kind of stilted, but it's still the English actor speaking English.
Yes.
In the Japanese version, Ryuji comes up to him and the Japanese voice actor goes, "Hello, I am Japanese," and then the American black ticket are just like, oh, I know. And
God damn it.
And then An just pulls Ryuji away. And I am so sad that all of you got robbed on how beautiful that scene was, because when I got to it in the Japanese version, I threw down my controller and started howling because it is played so straight. It is not meant to be really funny at all.
And I'm guessing they did not make the almost no effort required to find a native English speaker to record that 2 lines of dialogue for the...
No, absolutely not. They did not go to their own fully owned subsidiary who deals with English voice acting and say, hey, can you just get us an English voice actor to say, oh, I know. No.
They wouldn't have had to do that. We've already established they have a native English speaker on this game's production staff.
They have multiple. But no, instead they found a Japanese voice actor to record 1 line. Oh. And that 1 line was in English.
It would have been so easy to find one person, and they could have written the whole scene about, like, what is wrong with this kid? Just, goddamn it.
And then, everyone in Hawaii speaks Japanese.
Yep.
Everyone, including all the tourists that you speak to. And that plays a lot more in the Japanese version, where it is distinct when the characters are speaking in English or Japanese, because like you will get English text in the speech bubbles, and then like the Japanese, your party will be like, huh? And then suddenly they'll switch to speaking Japanese. But
I can see how that would be missed, because I'm pretty sure there's even a part where in English they say everyone here speaks Japanese.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but they say that with an English translation. So
yes,
it kind of robs that impact. And like you have to feel for the Atlas USA team. You like they get the script of this game, they get to that scene like, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah, and the answer is nothing. You just bail out.
Of course they go to an English speaking location. That's like the worst fear, is we have to localize Japanese speakers in the United States speaking English and Japanese, and the only language we can use to display is English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say they did the best they could on this localization, but with that specific scene, they probably did the best they could.
Yeah, there's no saving that scene. That scene is a mess. And the only way you do it is you basically there was another anime I encountered that did this, and what they just did was they basically took all the English speakers and just changed it into gibberish. Like, you knew they were speaking English, but they gave it from the perspective of the cast. Whereas in the original, they just found, hey, it's not that hard for people in Japan who can speak English, which they went and did, and then just they just put English on top of it, and the characters are like, I don't understand anything that's being said right now.
Yes.
That's probably the only way to save it, but in the case of this, there's so much dialogue in that scene, it wouldn't have worked. Like, that works for one joke.
What was the point of the Hawaii trip again?
The point of the Hawaii trip, so
it was during the Yakuruma thing, I think, with Big Bang, right?
Yeah, so for the characters, that was just their school outing. What the actual purpose it served was actually very little purpose other than just giving you like a fun distraction, because all the Persona games that follow the school system have school trips that you go on.
That would be a very expensive school trip.
Yes, but specifically what they were trying to communicate was, one, it was the introduction of Haru as a character, and two, and separately, but also to the same end, it showed, Big Bang Burger is a lot bigger than we thought.
Right,
it's like
international
it's
company.
a global chain.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we're going to Hawaii, and someone's like, I don't know, why won't we go to Big Bang Burger? And one of the characters is like, what? This exists here? And another's like, we're going to fly to another country and just eat at Big Bang Burger?
There you go.
But,
I'm gonna get Ringer Hut wherever I go.
But yes, that was ostensibly the purpose in communicating that. Otherwise, like, yeah, go there and then you can go on a date with someone.
Because I was gonna say, because realistically, your average Japanese high school is not doing their school trip to Hawaii.
Nope, it's way cheaper to get to Hawaii, but it's not that cheap.
Well, and Yusuke was going to L.A.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny. They're like, well, we were on our way to L.A., but there's a storm, so now we're here.
Yeah, that was incredibly stupid.
And so that's also so that not only served to get Yusuke in the group, but that also served to make Hifumi available if you wanted to go on your date with Hifumi.
Right. I mean that was just a total like, screw it. The scene doesn't really matter in general.
Yes, that is them just having fun with their own limitations and just what if we just had fun? What if we just got real stupid?
Yeah.
And I don't know, he's gonna do this, and then he's just gonna pick up some lobsters and wave them around.
You know, lobsters from Hawaii, where you often get lobsters.
Yes.
There was the one scene where you had to choose. Anne like ended up in their hotel room, and then they were like talking about girls, and then they asked the main character, what's your type?
Yeah.
And then you pick a type. But did that have any repercussions later on? No.
No, that was just a. How do you want? Like, what punchline do you want? Basically.
Yeah, that was a flavor text scene.
Most of those choices don't actually have repercussions. Like, even there's like go on. Oh, some of them do. Like, let's say you were rank 9 with Hifumi or the teacher, and you chose to go on your Hawaii date with your teacher because this game is weird.
That would be very much a problem.
That is an option. If you are dating your teacher at this point, you can choose to spend your Hawaii date with your teacher.
You sure can.
And when you if you do that, you get a bunch of bonus points towards that relationship. So that's useful if you're at rank 9 with someone, which means like you are dating them, but you are still accruing like relationship points to get to the end of the confidant.
Right.
But outside of that, there's really no purpose. Outside of like building up relationship points with someone.
Generally speaking, anytime you have a scene where there's a bunch of characters talking and you have a choice, it's mostly just flavor text.
Mostly.
If you're talking to one person, there's a pretty good chance it impacts the confidant.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know there was the one with Makoto. It was like, okay, are you dating now? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I maxed out Futaba, and then right before the I think that she was going to say something important, or she was basically alluding to like having a relationship, and then the game was like warning me, like, watch what you say now. Yes. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, is this really going to be an impact, or is it just...
So in it just impacts one scene.
Okay.
In 5, that's not true across the series.
So, yeah, different games handle it differently. In 5, you can date every single female character, and you can date them all simultaneously.
Yeah.
And there are different ends to all of the different confidant routes of is dating, is not dating. And the game fully expects that you're going to go down the dating route for every individual character.
Yeah, because the not dating ones, I did the not dating ones to avoid the bad scene. And
it's not really a bad scene.
No, in fact, I still ended up getting it. Kind of by accident. But it was like... because I'm still coming from Persona 3 rules where it's like, oh, this shit can actually have a problem.
No, but yes.
Well, that concept in general, though, the ability to date everyone, kind of went against the personality that the main character was being given.
Well, he was not actually given a personality.
No,
you gave him a personality.
He's a slate.
Maybe I was
deliberately is a tabula rasa.
Yes, it's absolutely all what you see in this character. But so yes, in Persona 5, if you are dating multiple people at the very, very end of the game, after the final boss, you are told who you want to do Christmas with, and then you are told. Then you're asked what you want to do Valentine's Day with. Mm-hmm. And for Valentine's Day, you can only pick one person, and they bake you chocolate, and then the day after Valentine's Day, every other girl who you are dating shows up with their chocolate very mad, watching the other girl walk out.
Yes.
And then they beat you up all in one big group. And then Sojiro walks in and just says, like, what a mistake you made. And then basically does the Looney Tunes boop, and then that's just the end of the scene.
Yeah,
and then it never mentions it ever again.
What I referenced in 3 is that sometimes sometimes the confidants can get into an inverted state, which is all kinds of nonsense.
So, yeah, in Persona 3, once you are dating someone, if you do not interact with them for 30 in-game days, then your social link with them will break or become inverted. So if once you are dating someone, you need to prioritize that person. You can be dating everyone all at once, even like before you reach rank 10.
It's just going to get really hard with the story days too.
Yes, it just gets really, really difficult, and you have to time it really perfectly because you need to pay a certain minimum amount of attention to everyone. Once you reach rank 10, it's locked, and you can have been dating everyone. And
that flag starts at like 7 too, so it's not like
7
at
or
9.
And then there are multiple scenes in Persona 3 that are like people your characters are walking in and out of this room, and all of them are like referencing dating you. Yes, and like it builds up like this fake tension, but it's not actually. The game never actually penalizes you.
In the school trip one, in that one, if you're dating the equipment manager or whatever her
yes.
She's like, I wish I could hang out on the floor with all those other girls that you're in class with, but I have to stay down here. It's like this really like
yeah, and a bunch of the characters like in Persona 4 Golden actually does the scene the roughest. Different from Persona 4, it does a Valentine's Day thing where all the girls make the chocolate, and you select the one girl you want to go to Valentine's Day with, and you get this nice scene, and then the next day you get to go on your own to each girl one by one in different locations, and everyone's like, I texted you, you didn't answer, I saw you were going with someone else, you don't have to explain it, just take this. And then you're given like dialogue options that are like ellipsis, or like, I don't know what to say, or like, I'm so sorry. And like, you get to go every single girl in the entire game, one by one in individual scenes. Just like this walk of shame through your infidelity.
Great.
Persona 5 speeds it up quite a bit by making it all happen at once.
Yep. I only had one other person, and I still got beaten up. It's like, what happened? Jeez.
Who were the two people you were dating, James?
On, because it was really, really like the game basically threw you at her for the first third of the game. Mm-hmm. And then Makoto, because Makoto actually had an interesting route.
Yes.
And then Makoto, I think An was the one I screwed up, and I picked the wrong option, and I was like, I've done it now. Well, here we go. But it's fine. The others, it was mostly just I turned down the teacher.
That's fair. I don't blame you.
And that was mostly just like, let's not make this more awkward.
But what about Death Doctor, Dr. Death?
I only got her to 9. So there was a bunch that I just didn't quite get to 10, and that was the reason why they become an issue. Because it's really hard to get everyone to 10. I mean, let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So my first run through the game, where there were no guides, I got every character to 10 except for Sojiro, the arcade kid,
Which is really hard to get to 10 if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes, if you have no idea what you're doing. The teacher, I did not get to 10.
Which I prioritize because you get the boat.
Yes,
the
I told you in advance of the game coming out, as soon as I maxed her out my first time in the Japanese, like, you need to really prioritize her. It's a game changer.
Yes.
To max her out.
So she gives you the ability to do more stuff, basically.
Yes, she makes it so you're not tired when you go after you go to the dungeons, which is a big change from Persona 4.
Right.
And then I also didn't max out Fortune Teller, and I didn't max out the Weapons Dealer, the Iwai.
So I did do Iwai, and I did do Hifumi.
I did Hifumi.
Yeah, but I think that might have been it for me. I did some of the other party members.
Yes, but I got almost everyone, but I did not get everyone. But then, yeah.
It is possible, it's just hard.
Yes, my first English playthrough, without following anyone else's guides but my own notes, I maxed out every single stat and every single confidant, and read every book, and played every video game, and I basically got almost every single trophy in one playthrough.
God.
Because that was my fourth playthrough of that game.
But you have to know, like, okay, today is the day I can only do this.
Yes, I had everything mapped out for, like, optimal path through everything. So it is possible to do everything in one run, but you're not going to do it your first run unless you're following a guide, and don't follow a guide.
Yeah.
Because that removes the challenge and interest, like, what makes things interesting.
Well, and it takes away from the replayability, because I want to play it a second time now, too. Because the whole confidant thing, it actually didn't, because it was my first go, I wasn't really understanding
that you were going to be getting things.
Yeah,
that's actually
like it took a while before it was like, oh, like this is worth it.
Yeah, how
like I had left things for so long.
How it played out in previous ones was largely just the persona you unlock.
Yes, but in Persona 3 and 4, you don't get benefits until you reach max social link. And when you hit max social link, you can fuse an ultra powerful persona. Like, the fusion becomes possible. You're not given it.
Right.
In 5, they changed the name from social link because now it's a give take, where you give someone something and they give you perks throughout the game, and the perks varied by different people. For instance, a lot of party members will do different things during battle, but also Yusuke will be able to, like, replicate skill cards. You have
the coffee.
Yeah, you have the coffee, which SP restoratives,
which is huge because that means if you can keep restoring your SP, you can basically stay in a dungeon forever.
Yes, and if you link that up with the teacher, who can go make the coffee for you, so that doesn't even take time.
Yeah.
Then you're just farming SP for 5,000 yen. And money's really easy to come by in Persona 5.
Yeah. I beat the game because of Futaba.
Yeah.
So
Futaba's very useful.
Yeah, because she had the replace, like, when your party dies.
Yes.
So in the final battle, I got the boss down to a quarter health, and they do, like, the big hit. So I had, like, no SP. I had no bullets. I was effectively down to just attacks.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the boss knocks out everybody except Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, like, one hit left. And then Futaba replaced everyone that had just died with, like, everyone on the bench. And I effectively, like, had a full blast of people.
Excellent.
At that point, that I just creamed the boss within, like, 3 turns from there. And because it was like, okay, well, I'm going to heal Joker. I'm going to cream this guy. And then that's effectively how I beat the game.
Yeah, it's super, super useful that way. Like, the politician, Yoshida-san, who you mentioned to me earlier that you didn't get. You didn't
never even talked to him.
You never spoke to him.
Yes.
So
never.
What he does as you build up is he improves, he makes negotiations easier. Like, when you're talking to the demons, like, he will highlight correct answers, he will improve your rewards, he will make them just run up to you a lot more often and just offer themselves to you at the beginning of battle. But his final one is he lets you recruit personas that are a higher level than you are.
Which is huge.
That is enormous.
Yeah, I'm okay. So that's That's something I will not ignore in
yes.
my second playthrough.
Oya, the woman in the bar, the reporter, the paparazzi, she makes it so that if you're bad at the stealth, it makes the stealth penalties way less. Like the gun kid actually... So, I really wish I had maxed him out in my first playthrough. He will improve your gun attacks, he'll unlock random fire, he lets you hold more bullets in your gun, but when you max it out, you just get an ability that uses one full clip of your bullets, but it just immediately puts you in the all-out attack or negotiation position.
Right.
Just immediately, no matter what even if your opponent has no weaknesses. And there are some late-game personas that you can only get through negotiation. You can't fuse them, and they have no weaknesses. So it's crucial.
I was using Miracle Punch for those ones, and then just hoping for the best.
Yeah, it's like the higher level gem personas in Mementos.
Yes.
It's just like to complete the compendium they're required, and you need that gun skill to reliably do it. Like, some of them just aren't useful, but some of them are, like, extremely useful.
I felt like I wasted a lot of time trying to build up my stats.
Like, your parameters? Like, your knowledge or guts? Or...
Yeah, like, the two things the things I started to focus on was I wanted to... I got to the point where Makoto had the friend that... And so I had to get my charm up. So I was like just constantly going to the spa or the bathhouse.
Yes.
Right.
And I felt like I wasted a ton of time focusing on that. And then after that, I ended up I wanted to boost Futaba, but I needed my kindness up. So I kept working at like the flower shop but I felt it was like after the fact, I was like, oh, did I focus too much on like...
So you fell into the trap of this being your first Persona game?
Yeah.
What you'll learn from now on, and this is the same in 3 and 4, is that the beginning month and a half of Persona game, you have very few confidants or social links and a ton of free time, and that is where you need to spend all your time grinding out those parameters. So that you
at the very beginning?
Yeah,
like the beginning of the game?
Beginning. Like first month.
Okay, like
in
first
April,
month. Okay.
You need to
just focus on that.
Right as soon as you move in, that's when you go to the bathhouse.
Well, and also there are opportunities to gain that stuff while doing other things as well.
There are things that achieve multiple goals, like the books. If you weren't checking out the books from the library, which the game doesn't really tell you about, it like mentions it in one conversation you overhear and then never again. The library has 8 books that you can check out, and each one.
I was buying the books.
In addition, you buy books,
okay.
And then the library has one book based on each of your. Every time you get a new party member, you can read a book about the thief that persona is based on. So here's the book about Zoro, and those raise your stats quite fast as well. Like there are definitely ways to min-max your stat gains. But
in the Big Bang Burger Challenge, I found it
That's
would
useful.
do multiple. Yeah, so it would do like your guts and your knowledge. Yeah,
Big Bang Burger is very useful. But yeah, like as soon as you start the game, like because there are several times where it's just like, I don't know, you just moved here. How are we going to spend our day? And then there's only maybe On is available, and you're not going to make progress with On, but I guess this is what the game wants me to do, or I could go study or shop. It's like, no. You should really be spending that early game min-maxing your stats so that you get to the end and are able to do things.
The other thing you'll run into as you play the game is that you might have an event with a person that boosts a stat not related to that person.
Yes.
Like maybe they go see a movie or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Like there was the arcade kid. You would get kindness points for spending time with him and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you get kindness for spending time with Haru as well. And this is where I want to go into the other thing about how she was rigged. Everything was rigged against her. Not only is her confident unlocked, I just looked this up, on October 30th. That is the first day you can achieve start her confidant, which is enormously late in the game.
It's after the Shido Palace, right?
It's after you start the Shido Palace, I think.
Because I felt like I kept trying to go to Hyrule, and she kept telling me, "Oh, this isn't the time. I want to."
Yeah, she wants alone time for a while.
Yeah, and then she wanted like to event. She kept telling me I felt like it was the Shido one where I was like doing the dungeon, but then she was like, "No, I want to finish the dungeon first before we do anything."
You have to talk to characters a second time to get around that.
Oh, okay.
You just have to push a little harder.
Yeah, because they'll be like, you sure you want to hang out? And then it's like, her wording for that's a little bit less clear. A lot of them will just say, like...
You sure?
Yeah, I feel like we should be doing this. And it's like, nah.
Yes. No, so specifically the thing with Haru, I believe it's it's expression. You need to max out your expression before you can begin the confidant with Haru, and she's the first and only requirement for expression in the game. If you are only going to max out these stats in the as the walls come up, as like the checks come up, it's like, oh, now I need kindness because Futaba is around. I'm gonna go work on my kindness now. If you get to Haru on October 30th and you have not spent time on your expression, and then it's like, oh no, have max expression, most people are just gonna be like, oh, never talking to Haru. Because
that happened to me.
There's no time left at that point in the game. Really, the only way to have been prepared is to have seen that there were 5 parameters and be like, I clearly need all 5 of these. I don't know how yet. I'm gonna make sure none of them get too far behind any of the others.
But you still have to deprioritize that one a little bit because it's not...
Yeah.
To get the other people clear, you need to, to get Makoto through 10, you have to have a lot of stuff maxed up.
Yes, it's kind of insane. But when I met Haru to begin her confidant, I was at 4 on. I'm pretty sure it's expression. Everything is rigged against her because also almost all of her character story is locked to her confidant. So if you are the normal player of this game for the first time, she's thrown into the game very late. And then you go and are like, I want to know more about you. And then the game says, fuck you. And so...
Yeah, she does the same. No, I'm not going to tell you more about myself.
And because she's cold to open up at the beginning. But, then you actually get in her comment, and I'm like, actually, yeah, okay. I have a strong understanding of who you are. And she's, the one damn party member that the localization handled very well. And, actually conveyed a lot of the nuance with. Because most of the localization in this game just cuts out all the nuance. The nuance of, what she says versus how she feels, which is not stated, is actually conveyed very well. Especially through the animations and, the portraits. So, she's a super strong character, and she is one of my 3 favorite characters in the entire game. And just the fact that they rig everything against her is so unfortunate.
Well, and especially when you're at, for me, I kind of knew it's okay, we're getting near the end. Mm-hmm. And I think the game even says something it kind of indicates you're getting near the end, you better finish up some relationships. So I'm looking at okay, I got this person at 6, this person at 6.
Yeah, you don't start someone, you finish.
Yeah, so I'm no, you know,
yeah,
screw you, I guess, there's no time. I'm just going to focus on where I can get the most benefit.
And the pacing becomes weird, because in my first English playthrough, where I did, on the first playthrough, max out everyone all in one run, I specify that it's a first playthrough because when you do New Game Plus, you carry over, your guts and your kindness and your expression, so that kind of stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
And you blaze through the confidants way quicker when there's no checks, and you can start everyone immediately.
Yeah, the only thing stopping you is story stuff.
Yes. So you get... by the time I got to Haru, I was maxed out with almost every single character in the entire game. And so I was willing to start her, and then the back of the game just became her. It was her and Gun Kid were the 2 last, and they were just going back, forth. But I was able to devote an hour and a half straight where she was almost the exclusive focus of the story.
Well, you also have your Persona compendium too, so you can just make the things you need.
Yep. I don't know. I love Haru. It's fucking rigged. If you want to know what you get, you can grow vegetables, which are extreme. They're almost Soma equivalents in terms of oh, here's here's an item that you can just grow at the top of the school that's just going to restore all your SP.
Yeah.
And you can
I could
grind
use
them
some
out
Soma.
daily.
Yeah, it and coffee became sort of these alternating things. If I'd call the teacher and have her make coffee, I'd have Haru plant vegetables, and then the last boss was a joke because I had infinite SP.
Yeah, but, like, she's, like, so useful, and her story is so interesting, and the writing is really strong with her. So this is my defense of Haru, the character that everyone is just like, eh. I'm like, you see a character dressed in, like, cashmere pastel, wielding an axe 3 times her size and with a persona that has, like, an army's worth of weapons in its mouth, and you're not curious? Like, she's...
Well, yeah, I did like her persona, because
Yes.
I used her in the run-up, in, like, the final dungeon, because
She's so
she is so powerful. I was just Well, that was the other thing, is I got to the final dungeon, I think I was, like, level 65, and there were some personas that I wanted, and so I had been like, okay, I'm grinding to level 73. And so I just put her in my party, and I just dummied a whole ton of people.
She's just a fucking tank. I love her so much. She is,
Yeah.
like, her and Makoto, like, pretty much never left my party. Not only because they're 2 of my 3 favorite characters in the game, but also just because, like, holy shit, you 2 are just fucking tanks.
Yeah, well, Makoto never left me either. No.
Makoto has low defense, but she has high evasion. So,
Yeah.
well,
Well, and I used her as my healer.
yeah, it's so useful to have a tank and that is also a healer. It kind of breaks everything, and I love it.
Oh, I'm the one of the things I was going to ask you about, since we're discussing time management, is so each month, like, you have the dungeon, and you obviously have, like, the deadline up into the point. Is there any benefit of not just doing the dungeon? Like, my strategy was, I'm just going to get the dungeon out of the way, and then I'm just going to take the rest of the month.
Yes, there is benefit in not doing that. And the benefit in not doing that is, the dungeon is available every single day, and confidants aren't.
Right. That's it, though. Like, that's...
Yes, that's the benefit. So if you are min-maxing your schedule perfectly, what you do is you wait until there's a day where there is no confidant that you have not maxed out that is available.
And you don't have any stats to boost.
Yes, so it is just a dull-ass day where you're just going to find something to do anyway. Then you go and you knock out the entire dungeon in one day. That is how you...
Well, it's minimum 2.
Yes, yes, but you knock out the entire dungeon up to the calling card.
Right.
In one day, and then and then you just knock the whole thing out. That is how you would ideally, if you were playing perfectly, that is how you min-max your time.
Yeah, so because I remember you and I asked you about, there's one dungeon where they say explicitly, like, hey, once you do it, this is it. And I remember I asked you, like, does the game really end? And you weren't sure because you hadn't done it either. You did it on the last day, and then we found out later, no, actually it doesn't end. You can just waste that time afterwards. But yeah, if you have the coffee and you have or vegetables, like, it becomes really easy to knock out a dungeon in a day. Because you can just turn the teacher loose on making coffee every day you're not doing the dungeon.
Yes,
and then you make coffee and you get to do a night day anyway, or you get to do both. It's you can start stacking skills to basically do everything time.
I discovered my friend who was playing the game. When they played the game for the first time, they set it to easy because they had never played a Megami Tensei game before. And if you die in battle, you just respawn in battle. All your party members get full HP SP restoratives, and you're immortal.
That's kind of nuts.
So that is how easy happens in this game. It was either easy or very easy, but like you literally cannot fail. So you could just like immediately get knocked down, and if Joker dies and everyone else is still alive, and you come back, everyone still gets full HP SP restorative.
That's savage.
So all the items mean nothing, and the game just becomes like you could be level 1, and the final dungeon could just be a battle of attrition.
God.
Oh, you might as well just watch a playthrough on YouTube at that point.
Except you're not going to be level 1 because experience points were multiplied by 2.
Oh God.
So they got to the final boss at level 99.
Great.
In like in like 60 hours, and I asked how it took them 60 hours, and they said because they got lost a bunch.
No, I could see that.
But like,
I'm personally offended by that difficulty.
Look, but the difficulty range also goes up to
Dumb. Like this is stupid. Why is it like this?
So there are two type difficulty modes. There's the one that's free DLC, which was launch day DLC in the West just to screw everything up. It was not available at launch in Japan, which is called like merciless difficulty. But then there's also like very hard, I think. So it goes very very easy, normal, hard, very hard, merciless. I believe. I think there's 7 difficulties. And this is off the top of my head. I apologize if I'm getting things wrong. The hardest difficulty that's not merciless is basically you take 1.3x damage, you deal 0.6x damage, and your experience is multiplied by 0.7. So like the game is just rigged against you. Merciless is not inherently harder than like. Merciless is just really weird. So the way Merciless works is your damage dealt to you is multiplied by 2 times. Damage you deal is multiplied by 1.5, so you deal way more damage. And experience is multiplied by like 0.25.
Ugh.
So you level up really slowly, but you are dealing so much more damage. So like it's not inherently harder than very hard. It's just a different game balance, which I feel like is why it was made as DLC. So like to separate it, like this is very clearly a different experience. This is not just we tweaked the numbers, we rebalanced the entire game to suit it, and it actually makes it a more interesting playthrough if you are experienced enough at SMT games to be able to want to go through it. Also, as with every difficulty above easy, if you die, you go back to the title screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that is... Yeah, it's interesting. So, I'm looking at this list of things we should discuss.
Oh, I have one last question about time management. How impactful are the gifts?
Can you elaborate?
Well, like, I know you could buy gifts.
Oh, yeah, it gives you points.
Yeah.
Like extra music notes. So like the way it works behind the scenes is that each music note 1 through 3 per action or speech. And not every text option has a 3 available, but like 3 is the most you can get through one response.
Right.
Is 1 through 3 points, and they need a certain point threshold to be able to move up to the next confidant rank. So like if you are at like rank 5 with On, and then you give all the wrong options and you get no 8th notes, you're going to have to spend time with her without any progression for a couple times as you build up 8th notes to be able to get to rank 6. Alternatively, if you had built up a surplus of 8th notes, then you can kind of coast on that for a little bit.
Yeah. I was just going to say, was there any indication of... Because I kind of gave up on the gifts because I never seemed to get the right ones.
It's just knowing the character's personality. It's that this is a very common thing in Japanese games where it's like, I don't know, give gifts to the right people.
I mean, yeah, it goes all the way down to things like Harvest Moon, where it's like you need to know what they like. Well, think about the character and go and act accordingly.
Like I can name games like Dead or Alive and Hatsune Miku games that have this system in it. Like this is games.
we just set the Hatsune Miku alarm off again. It might be time.
I don't know, canonical Persona 4 character Hatsune Miku.
Yep, that's the 3rd alarm, but we're now at 3-alarm Hatsune Fire.
Canonical Persona 4 character. She's a playable character in Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Okay.
That's not a joke.
It is a joke, but it's also reality.
Yes, no, that is not fiction. But, yeah, I guess we should discuss Mementos, a.k.a. Tartarus.
Yeah.
God.
It sucks.
Mementos sucks. Mementos would be so much better if it had a different song.
Yeah.
Ba ba da dum ba ba.
And it was randomly generated too, right?
Yeah, so that's it. The way Mementos is set up is almost identical to how all dungeons in 3 and 4 are set up.
Yeah, more or less.
Almost identical.
It just felt like a grind. Like it didn't.
That's how Persona 3 and 4 gameplay is. Yeah.
Persona 4, the dungeons are more interesting to be in.
Yes, Persona 4. Yes, it's a lot more visually interesting.
And so Persona 3, you have that constant challenge of like, I've got to get to the checkpoint. I've got to get there by this date.
So yes, David, since you've played through Mementos, I will say the way that Tartarus in Persona 3 is structured, the way Persona 3 is structured. Imagine Mementos. Imagine 255 levels of Mementos.
But you're not in a car. You're on foot.
You're on.
Oh no!
It's this, but it's also scaled down.
Yeah.
It's scaled down, so it's the same scale. It's the same amount of time per floor, basically.
I don't know if I want to think about that.
Okay, so 255 floors, and then every month there's a threshold of you need to have hit basically the block at the end of each.
And it's like 30 floors.
Yeah, you need to finish these 30 floors at the end of this month.
But there's a lot of checkpoints in it too, where you can warp down to the bottom, reset your health, and then come back in, which is huge.
You warp back to the beginning and warp back in, and it doesn't take you the full time. But yeah, each trip to Tartarus is a full night. Also, all your party members have stamina, so like sometimes when you enter, they'll be feeling great. And then when you leave, if you've really worked them to the bone, they'll be feeling sick. And not only can you not go to bring them to Tartarus the next night if you go, you also can't social link with them until they feel good again. So, like, yeah, Persona 3, like, tried a bunch of stuff and not all of it stuck.
Yeah, so the Tartarus in Persona 3 really came down to, I have got to get to the rooftop today, on the very first day, let everybody rest tomorrow, and then I'm good for the rest of the month.
So, the thing about Persona 3 is, if you're min-maxing, you don't actually have to hit every single threshold. There's only a couple that are story beats that you really have to hit. So if you really hate yourself and are optimizing the calendar but not your own personal enjoyment of the game, on the final day of the game you can basically scale the last 200 or so floors all at once. All in one in-game day.
Oh, no.
If you really hate yourself.
Well, even in Mementos, like, there was times where I'm like, oh my god, like, I would just... like, I'd have, like, 4 guys chasing me because I was just desperately trying to hope that I was going the right way.
Yeah.
And so I just got to, like, screw it. You can chase me down. I'm going through whatever door is right in front of me, and I'm going to keep on going, and I'm just going to try to go circles around you. I'm, like, so tired of you.
Welcome to min-maxing the dungeon layouts in Persona games.
Random dungeons can be really tough.
Yes, so when we talk about, like, the proc gen in Persona 3 and Persona 4, like, it's the difference between the staircase to the next floor of Mementos being the last door you look in, or literally 3 seconds away from the entrance.
Yeah, like you're staring at it when you open the level up.
Yes, like, you load in, and it's literally, like, 10 steps in front of your character, and you're like, wow, floor 186 was really kind to me. On to 187.
Yeah.
And they are literally just numbered. It is just floor number blank. You don't get, like, the Hebrew names.
Right. Or you're trying to catch death. Or trying to not catch death. And you can't find the stairway.
The Reaper.
Yeah, it's bad.
David, did you encounter the Reaper in Persona 5?
No, I almost wanted to, just to see what would happen, but then most of the time I was in Mementos. Oh, yeah?
Oh, he's a level 99 super boss.
Yeah, I don't think I ever ran into him, which is weird. Like, I think I just worked my way through the game quick.
It takes, I think, 5 minutes of being on the same floor to hear the chains rattling. And then when the chains rattling, that means he's on the floor, and he's going to come looking for you, or you can go looking for him.
Yeah, I definitely heard him. I never had the mispleasure.
He starts at a random point in the dungeon, and then comes. That is not where you are, and then comes and finds you.
Can you beat him?
Yes, and there's a trophy for beating him, and I've beaten him several times. Especially in my second playthrough, I grinded out Reaper across like 10 different floors. I fought him 10 times in a row because he's a super good source of experience points.
I'd imagine.
He has all party instant death kills for Bless and Curse.
Ugh.
So he has like Mahmudine or something, Mohammedine, and then he also has just a ton of physical skills, and he has a ton of and he has like all of the like Miragi Dine, Mabufu Dine. He has all of those. So he has basically everything, and then he also has charging skills. So, but what you do is if you have Satanaya, which is a New Game Plus exclusive persona, it's the final persona you call in the story to defeat Yaldabaoth, is if you summon him, if you have him as your persona, you're basically immortal to the Reaper. Because he absorbs most things and reflects almost everything else, and everything he does, everything in between, he resists.
Oh, jeez.
Satanaya is basically this perfect persona. Also, Satanaya has a ton of healing and a ton of, like, super powerful attacks.
So you just sit there and take it.
So, yeah, you sit there, and it's a war of attrition, and your party goes down in one hit, and then it's just you and the Reaper for, like, 30 turns. And then at the end, you go up, like, 10 levels. And you get a ton of money. It's really insane. Satanaya also has an exclusive ability that I bred back into my lesser personas that is the most broken ability in the entire game. If Satanaya is set to be your persona, at the start of battle, the first thing that happens is it 100% restores your HP and SP.
Oh, God.
So, and that's really useful because, like, all of his attacks cost, like, 80 SP or something. But they immediately kill your opponents. So you just go into the battle, use your most powerful attack, drain all your SP, and you don't care because the next battle, you have it all again.
Dear God.
Well, this is all great information.
It's so broken. I love it. Again, I'm sorry. I hope you know what you got yourself into bringing me onto this podcast, because I'm the person that knows Persona 5 like the back of her hand. Like, that is the persona to break all personas. It's that, and it's level 99 Satan. Also,
Satan is a notorious breaker in the series.
Yes. When you summon Satan, and you have Satan and Satanael in your party, you're basically immortal. You're basically immortal. And you can summon Satan. I think Satan is level 90 to summon, or have maxed out Justine and Caroline. Because when you max them out, then you can just fuse anything no matter what their level is.
Right.
Okay.
Which makes them... And you can max them out, like, halfway through the game. Like, once you get to, like, level 50 or so, you have all the materials. If you know how the fusion works, if you're really good at the fusion, you can max them out in, like, one sitting.
Yeah, I got them to level 9. I think there was, like, one thing left, and I was leaving it for a bit.
Yeah.
But then they fused together, and then I lost the option.
That's really unfortunate, because if you had gotten them to 10... what happens is those trinkets you got when you did your goodbye tour at the end of the game, when you're like, go talk to everyone that you maxed out, and they gave you like a photo or a keychain or something.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
What that does when you go to New Game Plus, if, like, for instance, if you maxed out the teacher, that means from day one of the teacher, like when you were rank 1 with the teacher in your New Game Plus, you can use her rank 10.
That's broken.
Bonus, because it knows that you've already ranked her up. So, So if you had ranked maxed Justine and Caroline, then immediately in your New Game Plus, not only do you have the compendium, but you can summon everything from the compendium and fuse anything. It's just a matter of how much money you have.
Well, I don't want it to be too easy. So
I'm just saying, this is how New Game Plus goes from an 80-hour game to a 30-hour game.
Yeah, it's designed to be too easy.
Yeah, it's designed because you've already played through it. So it's like, you want to replay this game? Sure, break it. Here you go. Everything you've done in the first game carries over, pretty much. It's so funny.
Well, this might be a good time. Maybe I could just go as a newcomer to the Megami Tensei. I'll go into just the battle system and how I kind of interpreted it. It wasn't as an RPG fan. It wasn't too difficult to kind of grasp the intention of what there is to do. Because basically it had a Final Fantasy feel to it, with like you had the 4 characters, then you had the other beings that you could bring in that do the different magic. The one thing, I guess, the discussion part, which I guess is, you were saying it was brought. This wasn't in earlier Personas, I guess, the 3 or 4. This is brought back. Like, this is
the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 1 and 2, and it's in most Megami Tensei games, but it was removed from 3 and 4 to make them more accessible.
Right.
Okay, because so the way that works, just I guess if someone's listening that hasn't played it, when you're fighting
I'm sorry
a shadow,
for spoiling everything.
Yeah, it'd be ruined. Well, yeah, I almost to me, I started to use the discussion as a strategy of if I was down on health, or down on SP or whatever, I would just try to get them to the discussion.
Yes.
To use the option just to give me an item and then piss off to get quicker through the dungeon. But then it's funny that we were talking about how I missed that one guy that helped with the discussions, because I just kind of felt the discussions were a crapshoot. It's just randomly pick one of these and hope that you get the...
There is a certain amount of randomness in it. But...
No, as someone who knows this game like the back of her hand, I promise you, and the game does tell you this, it just doesn't remind you of how it works. It tells you in the beginning during an info dump how to win every single conversation in the entire game. Every single shadow... I'm sorry, I know this game likes the back of my hand, so I'm going to be real quick. Every single shadow has a personality. Irritable, or, there are only 4 personality types. Let me quickly pull up the list. But, so yes, upbeat, timid, irritable, and gloomy. And for example, if it says that you are facing an irritable shadow, then it only wants the serious answers, and it will dislike any vague or kind answers. Because there's
I should have listened to that.
There's joking, kind, serious, and vague answers. Joking, kind, serious, vague, and 4 types, and each type matches up with a type of response. So if you're good at knowing what the joking response is, you can get every single upbeat shadow immediately. Timid is kind, irritable is serious, gloomy is vague.
Because that's the thing that I discovered on my own, was that it's usually what would happen is I'd meet them for the first time. They would ask questions and then I would answer, and then I could get the feeling of what answers they were looking for. So usually it was the second time I would get it, but I didn't realize there was a structure to it.
Yeah, there's absolutely a structure. When you hit L1 to scan, in addition to what their weaknesses are, right by its name, it either says upbeat, timid, irritable, or gloomy.
Oh, I never even noticed that.
It's on the screen at all times when you're scanning, and then you just learn what it is, corner them, talk to them, and get whatever you want. And so you can min-max everything, win every single conversation. It tells you that, on one screen, it just flashes up in the middle, the first time you corner them, I think, in the tutorial in the Kamoshida Palace, it just says, hey, timid equals blank. For timid, make sure that you put in this type of answer. For a gloomy one, make sure you give vague answers and not anything else. So, yeah, and every single Megami Tensei game has a structure to their conversation. It's just a different structure per game, so you have to learn, this is how it works in Persona 5 versus this is how it works in SMT4. But one of my favorite things is that for some reason those tutorials go over people's heads. So I hear a lot of people who are getting introduced to the system for the first time just describing it as random, a crapshoot. The game always could be better at explaining it, but if you know how it works, it's never random.
No, and that makes sense. Funny too, I enjoyed it, but it is it was a unique experience for the first time. I can't really compare it to any other game.
Yes. If you've never played a Megami Tensei game before, it is wholly unique.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the first instance of it was the original Super Nintendo Shin Megami Tensei, which was the 3rd Megami Tensei game.
But I love the complexity to it, because that's one of my favorite parts of RPGs is figuring out the complexity of the mechanics.
Just a whole other system. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great system. It's to do that for, or to figure out.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you want to take a break?
Sure. We could take our last intermission, and then we'll come back. I don't know how much. I guess we could talk a little bit about the story if you want, maybe if there's anything in particular. But otherwise, we can go into some of the other themes and
sounds good.
Fish it up. So we'll be back. right, 2.5 hours in, give or take, I would say, depending on how the... Yes. We're definitely over 2.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that most of the listeners here have already probably gone through the game at least once. So
yes.
We'll probably, for the most part, leave the story as is. That we're going to assume, unless there's a couple things that we'd like to just focus on.
I think it was 2012, 2013. It was in the middle of the run of Persona 4 spin-offs. The voice actor for Igor passed away in Japan. The Japanese voice actor. And so it was like, oh, and Igor, because David, you wouldn't know this, Igor is the only character that has been in every single numbered Persona game.
Oh, okay.
Igor was introduced in Persona 1.
Is the voice, is the demon Igor and the post Igor, is that the same voice?
No, so what they did, in the Japanese version, what they did was they built the story around his death. They wrote the story around it, where Igor is not real Igor, and so, and they got away with this too, because in the Japanese version, when it was a different Igor voice for the first time basically ever, people were like, oh, I guess this is what Igor sounds like now. And so it was very believable. And then they got to the end of the game, and when real Igor comes back, it's posthumous recording in the Japanese version of the original Igor voice actor.
Okay, so the Igor that comes back...
Yes, the real Igor is recordings... Yep.
Ah, okay.
Is archived recordings of him from when he was alive. So they had the 2 different voice actors.
So they had to write the script based around audio they had.
Yep, they wrote... He passed away, and they changed the script around it.
I felt like there was missing... That totally makes sense now, because when I felt like there was voice acting missing from the Igor character after they switched it.
Yeah.
Where it was like, usually he talks here. Why isn't he talking here?
So I believe the issue they faced in the West was... So obviously they needed to do something similar, but the original Igor voice actor in English didn't die. But they also didn't get him for the second Igor voice. Maybe because if it was announced that he was working on it, that would give away the twist. So instead, the second Igor is a sound-alike of the P3, P4 English Igor.
Igor, the character, is in all the games.
Yes, Igor the character.
Igor. Okay, so
yes,
it's the same guy and the same character and everything. Okay.
And the Velvet Room is different depending on the inhabitant. So in Persona 5, it's a prison cell. In Persona 4, it's a limo. In Persona 3, it's an elevator.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so in 5, you just get this weird twist that doesn't work as well in English, because when you get the second Igor, it's not the original voice actor still, and it's audibly not the same. So the localization unfortunately missed that last bit. Speaking of the localization, wow.
There's some weirdness going on in it.
Persona 4 Golden, in terms of RPG localizations, is the gold... no pun intended, damn it. Is the gold standard. It is what all other localizations aspire to be. It is one translator, one editor. It is one consistent voice throughout, extremely faithful, but extremely natural in English. All the characters sound natural, none of it sounds stilted. In the English version of Persona 5, my understanding is they got the final Japanese script literally weeks, if not days, before the Japanese release, which was in September. And the game, before it got delayed a final time, was scheduled to release in America on February 14th.
Yeah, which was never going to happen at that point.
And they got the script in August or September of 2016. So they threw every person at it. They had 15 translators and 5 different editors, and they rushed it, and the voice actors came in, and they were given inconsistent direction because the Japanese team decided they wanted to direct some of the English voices, which led to some really stilted line deliveries. or, let's say, mispronouncing the names of their own characters. You get Makoto and Sakamoto.
Yes, those slayed me.
Like, every single time it happens.
And, like, those are normal names. Those aren't even weird Japanese names.
No, it's not like Masayoshi. Like, Masayoshi is not a common Japanese name. But
No.
here, like, they had no problem pronouncing that one. It was, it's Makoto, which is the equivalent of mispronouncing James.
Yes.
It is so common. It's an androgynous name, too, so it's extremely common. So, you have that, and then you have, oh my gosh, someone even made a damn website chronicling some of the early game localization, like, fuck-ups.
What's bizarre, and I think it speaks to the amount of time they had, is there are screw-ups. I mean, pronunciation obviously ultimately falls on the voice actor and the director.
Yeah.
But these are voice actors who make their living dubbing Japanese anime.
Yeah.
Like, they know how to pronounce Japanese names. Or they damn well better. It's what they do for a living.
Yeah, you have, you have instances where the message, like, the meaning completely changes, or they translate something backwards. Here's one. Character A, are you a part-timer? I'm surprised this place can afford one. Character B, that's exactly the case. Faithful translation. That's not exactly the case. You get...
I think there was one with the principal when he first goes to the school.
Yeah, it's rough. They literally mistranslated bread as pan, which is the Japanese word for bread. They just Romanized it and forgot to translate it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's only one of the 3 in-game items that's bread. So it's bread, pan. You get this interaction. Hey, me near, okay?
Me near.
You get
Me also near.
Suguru Kamishita was a scum. I feel a murderous intent. Is this some kind of filming? Who's in charge here? You're done here along with this abominous world. What troublemakers that bother King Kamishita with trifle matters? Like...
What troublemakers indeed.
Like, you get, like... First
See,
of all...
that one I actually chalked up to them just trying to make it sound like he is a king and he's trying to talk all royal-y.
Oh, yeah. No, that's not in the Japanese.
But haven't we all said, I'm angry with murderous intent when you're like, you're in a very...
I've lived it. I've not necessarily said it.
Are you really a bad person, as the rumor says? And, like, that's the other thing, is, like, all the voice acting lines had to get finalized immediately, because they needed to get the voice actors in a reasonable time. It's like any line that had voice acting got even less of a translation pass, not more, like an editing pass. Like,
but at least with the voice acted lines, you have that moment of there's a human who is reading this who might go like,
I don't know, because a lot of those did not got voice acted without seemingly
getting caught. What if those are the ones that survived?
Yeah.
What if it's a situation where like the person doing direction was like, no, that line needs to change.
The actors aren't paid to think.
No, but the director is.
Yes, the director is. Shoutouts to Nintendo of America Treehouse for scooping up Nick Maragos, the person who was the localizer of Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden, basically. He was the English writer of that, and Nintendo scooped him right up. Because they came to him with a big offer, was like, what if we took one of the most talented people in the industry and made him ours? And, like, Atlas and Sega of America, which are the same company, have amazing talent. And if they had given that talent more time, none of this would have happened. But you get this really rushed, sloppy localization on this amazing game that is just at odds with itself. It feels like a damn budget PS2 localization at times. Like,
which is the best kind of localization, to be fair.
The hallmark of a good localization is if the characters feel as natural as if they were written in English in the first place. As if it was written in America. Like the original script. If the dialogue can feel, and the writing can feel that natural, that is a good localization. If it still feels like, this is a Japanese script, this is a Japanese translation, then that's bad, because when it was written in Japan for a Japanese audience, they did not write it that way. They did not write it to feel stilted. And some people are like, well, it lines up with what I understand from fan subs, and I'm like, you have a really low-ass bar. Like, one of the notable things is, in the Japanese version of the game, Morgana has a speech tick, where he will say, Wagahai no, to either beginner and subject in sentences. And this is actually, I got like 10 hours into the Japanese version not understanding what this meant, and I'm a person who, like, imports Ace Attorney games and, like, Danganronpa games and plays them in Japanese. Like, my Japanese is not that bad. Like, I could not understand this. I looked it up. It's a damn reference to a cat thief in like, classic Japanese literature.
God.
And they just slipped... That's his speech take in Japanese. So what did they change it for in English? They just removed it completely. There's no replacement at all. Not even, like, making, like, cat puns a bunch, like, in all their same places. They just stripped it. They added a couple cat puns, but they didn't replace Wagahai no. They just... They were like, I don't know what to do with it. We don't have time. Get rid of it all. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's so weird. Especially playing that game, because the English language version lets you download the Japanese voice acting. To play with the Japanese voice acting and see the English and have it be so different, even though it's the same, mostly the same intent. Like, Morgana in the Japanese version, his relationship with An does not feel any creepier than a traditional anime crush. In the English version, he comes across as a sexual harassing stalker of An.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's just so weird. And I don't want to harp on this, because Atlas USA also has since done excellent work. Like, they localized the Yakuza games. Like, especially coming off of Yakuza 0, which English version came out 3 months before this.
They basically do everything for Sega that's not like Sonic.
Yes, everything that's not Sonic or strategy games.
Right, because those are usually written in English to begin with.
Yes. Like, all of that is the Atlas team still. Is this Persona team. Persona localization team. And it's like, man, what a letdown is that. And they never patched any of it. They're like, nope, no. This is the localization. We're done.
Who did Sharp FE?
Atlas.
Okay. And it's good.
Yeah, it's a good localization.
But it's a budget localization.
Yes, well,
but that's one way to do the budget localization.
That's the worst selling SMT game of all time.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Too bad they didn't do a patch, because I get the rush, because really, like you said, it was supposed to come out in 2014. So
well, yes.
to sit there and be like, well, we got to delay it another 6 months because of localization, I can see like some suit being like, no,
they push it 2
send
months.
Just send it.
Yes, they push
like,
it.
I get that.
They push it from Valentine's Day to April 4th.
Yeah, so I understand that, but you would think at the same time that it'd be like, you know, why don't we just patch this out? They probably made enough money that it's like...
It did. This game sold very well. This game hit over 2 million copies. Like, this is by far the best-selling game in the series. By far.
Give it its due, you would think, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't speak Chinese, but from what I understand, the Chinese localization of this game is way more faithful than, like, the English localization. Like, all the other languages that are based off the Japanese and not for, like, re-translating the English. Like, I hear, like, all those are better localizations. And it's kind of just a matter of what could have been. It's like, especially having played the Japanese version 3 times and then seeing the English version and being like, oh no, what? What happened? I don't know. It's disappointing. I hope that future localizations of these characters aren't afraid to change things from how they were portrayed in original Persona 5 to make them better written. You get characters like Haru and Makoto that escaped from translation relatively unscathed, and you get An, Ryuji, Morgana, and Yusuke. Like, the first party members you get are, like, the ones that got hit the most. Because there's the most writing.
Well, and it's funny, too, because when I'm playing, a lot of the times I'll forget that they're supposed to be talking in Japanese to each other. And so then they'll be like, they'll start asking, like, who speaks English? And I'm like, you're all speaking English. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, right.
That's something when dealing with this genre, you just kind of have to, like, yes, this joke's going to happen at some point. I'll just deal with it.
Yusuke, in his Japanese writing, was written in a style that is also used, or is most commonly used to write characters with mild autism, which kind of suits his character actions. And then, let's not carry any of that over.
Well, that makes sense because I feel like there's a lot of comments towards that, like that he was the awkward one.
Yes, they don't call it out specifically, but like it matches, and like that was clearly written with intent that just didn't carry over. It's unfortunate. Other things about the story, James knows this. This game is such a thinly veiled social satire on Japan's.
It's not veiled climate. At all. Thinly veiled implies there's veiling.
It's so thinly veiled that it makes you contractually agree at the beginning of the game that this isn't about anyone in particular.
Yeah,
every single boss in this game, every single palace boss in this game, including and especially Shido, are based on actual people. Shido specifically. Oh, this is just Prime Minister Abe. Sup, Abe?
Well, the second I see that warning in anything, I immediately go to, okay, well, it's obviously based on someone.
Yes, but it's like
I would say it's not all Abe. There's other politicians that are being rolled in there.
Well, yes, it's an amalgamation, but specifically
Abe's too milquetoast to be all that Shido has.
Yes, it's like, oh, sure, pedophile teacher. It's like even a lot of the confidants, like Yoshida, is clearly based on someone. And it's like the central message of the game, the core theme, is them criticizing Japanese citizens for not thinking for themselves and drawing their own conclusions and just kind of like just believing whatever they're told to believe. And like that is hammered home so goddamn heavily in Persona 5. And like that is the message. It's a social satire on current Japanese social climate.
That's like the last 5 hours of the game really is just hammering that home. Like from the moment you enter that final area of mementos.
Yeah, it's that's when it's just like, are you getting it? Are you getting it? Are you getting it? But like before then, it's just like it's just like woven throughout basically every single like, oh, you're overhearing the NPCs. It's like someone's like, oh no, I heard on TV, so I guess that's true.
Yeah, and it's like the point where it's like you need to stop.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you just like. Persona 3 and 4 are like telling their own like weird fictional stories. Persona 5 is literally just this giant ass social satire. It's really weird, honestly.
Like there are politicians in this game where I can tell you what party they're referencing, what Japanese political party they're like oh, you're from that. Okay.
Yeah, it's and I'm not gonna throw this one at the feet of the localization team, because there's only so much you can do while still maintaining the implausible deniability that they aren't people. Yeah. Like, there's only, like, you can't exactly just put it, like, add text being like, this is a reference to this, because they're saying it's not.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just not something that plays for most people in the Western audience. But, like, if you were a Japanese citizen playing this game, like, it is, like, sub-Daily Show level satire in terms of just like how thinly veiled it is.
Yeah, it's the part about the citizens not thinking for themselves is mildly universal.
Yeah, some would say especially in Japan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think most societies would assume that they are unique in that though. Like it's not.
Yes.
You're not like there's always a sense of like if you believe that the people in your society don't think for themselves enough, you're othering someone else to assume they do.
Yes, I will say Danganronpa V3 is a game that came out around the same-ish time, especially in Japan. Localizations were pretty far apart, but the releases were similar. It was like September and January in Japan, and there's some dialogue in the Japanese version of Danganronpa V3 that's like talking about a similar issue, and the way that NIS America chose to localize it was just have a character shout fake news. So
Nice.
I'm at least glad that Atlas didn't go that route. Because that was even more heavy-handed.
It gets the point across.
It does get the point across, but it gets it across a little too large of a hammer. But yeah, and then I guess the only other thing about the story I wanted to bring up was a lot of the changes between like early drafts of the game and final drafts of the game. We talked about the backpacking stuff. Originally, Ren was going to live with Sae. In this version of the script, Sae and Makoto weren't siblings, and so it was going to be in like her own high-rise flat. She was going to be like still the lead detective. She was always going to be that. And so it was going to be a similar thing with P4 of living with the detective researching your case.
Yeah, that's a little too on the nose, I think.
But in this one, like, they're not related, and she, like, as a way to like try and like recoup, like, bring him back into society, was like having him help work the case and like bringing her up as her protege. As like they were gonna have like this mentor, mentee, or tutor, relationship, while also picking up core information about the case and using that as a Phantom Thief. But
that'd be weird.
Yeah, when the scenario changed, the role of getting information from her was given to Makoto when they were made sisters.
And that made much more sense. So
Yeah.
So he, in that draft, they were thinking that he would still do the pushing of Shido, get sued, and the prosecutor is the one
You're gonna live with this. You're gonna leave with this.
She was a detective, not a prosecutor. Yes.
You're gonna live with this detective who's only a few years older than you, so there's a potential it's gonna be awkward. I'm sure this will reform your life.
Yeah, it was just like, hey, like, we're not gonna like mild probation of like we're gonna improve you. We're gonna make you a member of society again. Live with this person who's going to make sure you don't do something. Like,
or is going to contribute to you doing things you definitely shouldn't be doing.
Well, yes, but no one could have seen like the app coming. But so yeah, that changed, and then Ren was made to go live with Sojiro in order to flesh out the Futaba arc, because that arc is more poignant if you know Sojiro.
Yes.
And then also, Hifumi was always meant to be a member of the Phantom Thieves, and I believe, and I'm so opposed to this decision, I hope they regret this decision. They removed... Hifumi's the shogi player in the church. They removed her from the party so they could add in Akechi and it be believable that there's a ninth party member. Instead of doing a Kane from Final Fantasy IV, where you have a fifth party member for like 3 seconds. And the guy's like, wait, what? And then you battle him. Spoilers for Final Fantasy IV. Whoops. But, yeah, like, she was going to be a member of the Phantom Thieves. That makes me upset, because I really like that character. Especially, did either of you or both of you finish her Confidant?
I did. It's fine. I don't know that she needed to be a character though. I was fine with how she was positioned.
It seemed like they were gearing towards that though, like with the relationship with the mother.
Yeah, like the thing about her arc is like it pretty clearly to me felt like, oh shit, we have to give her a different story. Like, I didn't particularly care for the ending of her story, but like the build up and like the circumstances around it. Like, there are other ways that could have gone, and I could have seen that gone, and then also her being part of the Phantom Thieves, like, I could have seen. So, like, all the pieces were there for me, where it's like, oh, man.
I don't know. I didn't really, but the one thing that Mementos did let them do, though, is it let them do small-scale versions of stuff, which helped. Because, again, her mother has a Mementos quest, where... she doesn't have a full palace, and I think the plot conceit is like they caught it before it evolved that far.
Yeah, again, you could see
Something like that. But I mean, that's sort of the plot conceit for all of those, is that these people haven't evolved their twisted heart into the point where they've developed a full palace, but they're here mementos. And there's pretty much every quest or every confidant has one of those.
It's actually closer to 50%, but yeah.
Well, because I mean, they're ones that are obvious members of the party who don't have them.
Yes.
But like most of the non-party members do.
Yeah,
because that's sort of like around 7. That's where that pops.
Yeah, probably 70 to 80% of the ones that never join your party.
Yeah, because usually it's like there's somebody in their life that's important to them that's gone astray.
Yes,
and they have to go deal with them, or it's
an arcade bully.
Yeah, it's something.
So how would you like? Let's say I'm just trying to think of, because like Haru got shortchanged. If they had let's say they made Haimufumi, like
Hifumi.
let's say they made her the Phantom Thief, and they made Haru just a confidant but not a Phantom Thief. Do you think that would have been? You think that would have been better?
Switching the two, I don't think would have been an improvement. Honestly, making there be 9 party members like the other Persona games, I feel like would have been the thing to do. And they did.
Oh, okay. So there was 9 in the previous ones.
Yes.
Okay.
She was going to be there. They changed that so they could have Akechi be the 9th.
I think not having to deal with Akechi's social link helps, though.
Yes.
But that also pretty much gave it away that he's not.
Yes. Oh, there's no confidant for him, huh? But
yeah.
And it's like, I guess you're trying to make me think it's because it's so late in the game, but you sure didn't pull that shit with Haru.
No. Especially when it was auto-giving you other people's confidants who were in a similar position.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know, it felt real fucked. I really wish... Yeah, because, like, Persona 3, there are 9 party members in that game. Persona 4, when you have the full party, it's 9 members. And Persona 5 is similar, but there's only a small window of time when Akechi is in your party. It is the time it takes between you entering the casino palace and you sending the calling card. That month is the only month that you have Akechi.
Yeah, I don't even get the need for the mystery around it.
I mean, the characters don't know. It's not meant.
No, the characters know. The characters. That's how the characters set everything up so that he could be shot in one world.
I know. But the reveal isn't that he's the bad guy. The reveal is that the characters knew he was the bad guy.
Yes.
Like they're not trying to hide from you that he's nefarious. Because you have third person omniscient view of the plot largely.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't. And so the reveal is that they knew anyway, not that you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess my thing was I didn't, and I think that was like the hour long. Was that the hour long one?
Yes, there's an hour long series of cutscenes that it asks you to save before. Because it's like this. I think it says something to the effect of like, it'll be a while before you can save a game. Would you like to save now?
Yeah.
Well, and my other problem with it too is that like the explanation went on forever. I kept I'm just sitting there thinking, I get it. No, I get it. No, it's okay. I get it.
Well,
no, you don't need to get this detailed about how you figured it out. I get
that's
it.
funny. That's funny that you mentioned that, because the complaint I got from other people was that it went on for so long, and by the end they still didn't get it, and so they wasted all that time.
Oh no! It was the opposite. It's like, I get it. You don't need to explain it to me like I'm an idiot. Like,
yes, I think my takeaway from it was like, I get it, but I wish they'd explained it differently, not better. Like had spoken a little bit, had given you more hints that they knew something was up early.
I didn't like the scene where Goro and Shido explained the nefarious plot that had already happened to each other.
Who were
where it was like,
that's
where they're like summarizing the evil things they did to me. It's like this is the best rating you can come up with. Like,
you get that movie to get. Honestly, for me, my slightly different take on that, which is really just like the reason it didn't bother me as much the first time, was because I was playing it in a foreign language and I understood the gist, and I understood like 90% of it. But like having them explain it in a couple different phrases, like they changed the phrasing a couple different times, that made it a lot more clear and easy to follow. So like I had that my first time. If I had played it the first time in English, I would be right with you, David, which is like, no, I get it. Yeah. They had Saya use the phone, which made it changed it into the palace. Yep.
Yeah, and then the other part too that I was kind of like, oh, really, was like when they were showing the reactions to everybody to the news that he committed suicide, and they had like a couple people were like shocked, like Makoto I think dropped whatever's in her hand or something, and I'm like, but
yes, they're pretending because they're all in social situations. That's the other thing about those scenes. None of them are alone.
I guess I don't know. It just was, except Ryuji was like cheering it.
Ryuji's
but he is an idiot.
A gleeful idiot.
Yes. Ryuji, bro.
His reaction is actually the most beautiful in that scene.
It is pretty funny.
Ryuji is the biggest idiot, and all I'll say about Ryuji is, to his defense, he is less offensive than Yosuke and much more tolerable than Junpei, making him my favorite of the three bro characters. I don't like any of them, but I will take Ryuji over Yosuke, who sucks ass, and Junpei, who shouldn't exist. Anytime.
I'm not going to have this conversation. All right, we're running late anyway, so.
Yosuke is homophobia personified. Anyways.
This is from a different...
Yeah, that's from Persona 4. Yosuke is different than Yusuke. Yeah, they made two characters in two consecutive games that are one letter apart in English.
Again, not a concern of theirs.
No, because they were writing it in kanji, and the kanji are very different.
Yeah.
So they're like, whatever, Yusuke, who cares? That's easy. You can decipher that easily. And then in English, it's like, oh shit. Well, Yusuke is not Yosuke. Anyways, yes, that's a Persona 4 character. Persona 5 has the standard P Studio homophobia. It is less... They don't comment on their transphobia. They have it, but they don't comment on it like they do in P3, P4, and in Catherine, so that's something. They have the scenes of the cartoonishly evil gay men that chase Ryuji around a couple times, and that's uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was really early in the game, too.
That's a recurring joke, actually. The first time they go to Shinjuku and when they go to the beach.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's a recurring gag because they're so proud of it. They think it's so funny.
They don't show up in Hawaii, do they? No,
they don't show up in Hawaii. It's just the beach, yeah.
They're one of the celebrations on the beach.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you had to tell me that because I didn't even remember. Like,
yeah,
it just didn't register.
It's the time when they take Futaba to the beach because they're having her explore the outside world.
Right.
And then Ryuji is like, hey, maybe I'll find a girl here. And then two cartoonishly gay men come up, or effeminate gay men come up to him and like, well, you could hang out with us. And he's like, they're gonna take me or something. And then he runs away. Or I think he says something like, my innocence. And then runs away. I'm like, actually, fuck you, game. Oh, I am, honestly, that is like the number one reason I am okay with the fact that the leadership team split. So Peace Studio is now run by different people, the Persona team, and Studio Zero, yeah, that's the studio name, right, James?
Yeah.
Yes, Studio Zero went off. That they formed a new studio with the director at the head of the studio, and he's off making. Ostensibly, he's off making this fantasy RPG, but in the meantime, they're remaking Catherine and adding 10 times the transphobia. So it's pretty clear where that comes from. So at least that's sectioned out of Persona now. I hope that change is reflected in Persona 6.
Is it Studio Zero or is the project they're working on Project RE0 or something like that?
Yeah, it's Project Refantasy.
Okay, yeah. Fucking
ReZero
nonsense.
is an anime.
Yeah, he's going back to the medieval RPG.
Classic fantasy for Project Refantasy. And in the meantime, they're porting the PS3 and 360 puzzle game they made to Vita.
Yeah, fuck it. Who cares?
Because who cares? Right? And they're adding a third love interest. This one's going to be a trans woman. Fun fact, Japan just legalized forced sterilization of all trans-identifying citizens. So, you know, they're going to have some fun progressive things to say about that character. Anyways, that's my homophobia in Persona rant. Promised people it was coming.
Any final thoughts?
My question was just going to be, around the room, who's everyone's favorite confidant, party members included? It doesn't just have to be like a confidant story, but just like character.
Oh.
Of like the 20-ish characters that you can have a relationship with.
I actually... That's tough. The politician is really good.
It's a really good story.
Which I completely missed.
Yes.
And
which is why we're not spoiling
like it's probably one of the few times that a Persona game deals with the human flaw and doesn't magnify it in such a way that it almost cannibalizes.
It becomes the person.
Right. Like this is a person who made a mistake and actually has regret now. And not needs to be shown that they're supposed to have regret. He has had regret and has lived his penance.
Yes, and now he is trying to come back from that mistake.
Yeah, he's toiling to live his penance, and ultimately, he is a minor sinner of this sin of the overall crime.
Yes,
but he is the only person who has stepped forward to actually pay the consequences of it.
Yes,
which is commendable, and he's a genuine character, and you actually feel for him, because he's pretty much the only person who looks at the Joker character, recognizes that, oh, you've made some kind of mistake as well, but it doesn't really define who you are.
Yeah, like they get along so well, like the fact that similar-ish backgrounds.
Even the other party members for a while are a bit standoffish to Joker, because it's like, you're still a criminal. It's like you guys aren't one to talk. Makoto's an absolute ass for a long time. Like, I'm gonna stand around and stalk you people because I don't trust you. And then it evolved.
She wasn't doing that of her own volition.
At the very beginning, she was.
No, she was told to because she was being blackmailed by the principal.
That doesn't come at the very, very beginning. Your first encounter with Makoto was before that.
Yeah, I think James is right too. I'm pretty sure there's.
I was pretty sure there was a reveal that she was being blackmailed after the fact, but it was that the
was
phrasing
it the whole time though?
Yeah, like the phrasing was like, you have to solve this issue like at any cost, and then letter of recommendation, yada 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 yada. You don't want to disappoint, da 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 da. Tapping into her insecurities, and she's doing this because she's like, okay, any cost, I have to.
Okay, because I thought it was just elevated after the fact.
Yeah, like, I always got the impression
that's
she was
how I
rather
got it.
brusque with him pretty much from the minute he came to school. But generally speaking, like, pretty much everybody just assumes the worst, except for this one person who is like, look, I know what this shit's like. I know that in our youth we make mistakes. It's completely free of judgment. But I actually like if he doesn't evolve as a character because he already had, which is unique amongst these Persona plot lines. He
evolves in his in other people how they react to him.
Yeah, he has to convince other people that he's not the image they've created, which goes back to the theme of the game. But a lot of time, everybody else basically had to make that evolution by becoming someone, more.
Different,
yeah. Whereas he was already there, he just had to prove it. It almost was a point of everyone else had to become different.
Yes.
Which in a game all about like shitty politicians and stuff, like there is a sense of like, oh, having him around provides an incredibly crucial counterbalance. That not everyone who gets into politics gets in it for shitty reasons, even if maybe he did at first. Mm-hmm. Although they never actually say that. They never actually say like, "Oh, he's only in this because." It's like it sounds like he got into it for good intent and then got not even corrupted, but then sort of fell into some bad habits.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's probably the most interesting in that regard because A, he's a Persona character who's not 17, which
he's in his 50s.
Yeah, and B, he actually gives like really meaningful perspective and he's believable as a human being, but he also provides like a goodness that is missing from a lot of characters in this series.
Yeah.
Even people you're supposed to like.
David.
I think it's probably Carolyn and Justine, right? Justine.
Yeah, Caroline and Justine.
Yeah, I think it was them because I always found the interactions funny, and there was that progression of like where they despised him at the beginning, and you could see and the mystery behind like when they're looking at the list and like, well, who wrote this list? Oh, I thought you wrote this list. No, I didn't write this list. Where did we get the list from?
Caroline never stops despising Joker.
No. It gets weird.
Yeah.
It gets full anime. It gets like 100% all the way on anime at some point.
Well, it's kind of like the good cop, bad cop too, right?
I don't like you, God. Yeah, it gets weird.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Justine does come around, but Caroline doesn't.
Yeah. And then it was funny, just like depending on who you got, you either were like walked into the room or you got your ass kicked into the room.
Yes, depending on if you entered from the dungeon or the street, because Justine would let you in, and Caroline would just like triple back flip, just smack you into the room. I love it.
Yeah.
This is a good touch animation.
Yeah, but it's hard because they were all kind of unique in their own way. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick them.
Okay. For me, my favorite character is Makoto. I would go Makoto and then Tai and then Haru. But if I'm picking my favorite storyline, it would probably be Chihaya. Chihaya Mifune, the fortune teller. Did anyone here max her out?
I got her to like 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yeah, the same.
Then I won't spoil too much, but as they keep peeling back layers of like, okay, this is what she's doing, and then the next thing you learn is, okay, why is she doing it? Okay, how did she get here? Okay, what is her relationship with these other fortune-telling people? Okay, what was she before that? Okay, what is her relationship with her family? And it's it just peels back, and the fact that I could predict, like, okay, I am not just going to move her story along, I'm going to consistently learn more about her as a person every single time I visited her, kept me coming back. Even though her bonuses were pretty much useless. Actually, no. It was useless once I knew what was going on. Her bonuses overall, which was like, your parameters, like your courage will go up faster, and like you'll gain more points for correct answers with other confidants.
Yeah,
like that stuff was useful, but like once you knew what was going on,
in New Game Plus, she would be almost completely useless.
Yes, but like the first time through, she was useful. And I regrettably didn't finish her in my first playthrough either. But like when I went back, I was like, oh shit, sup? Yeah, I'll date you, and I don't just say that to everyone. And then, is everyone on this call, I haven't discussed this with anyone, but I just assume that everyone feels this way too. Is everyone on this call in agreement that Yuki Mishima, the blue-haired kid from your class, is the worst confidant in this game?
I'm trying to remember.
Or he pees his pants when his friend is getting beat up?
He's the one who starts, like, he assigns you with, the way you progress with him is that you go and you complete these treble missions in Mementos, and then it comes out that he's just using you to feel powerful, and that he's actually a villain. But it's not. There's no actual good writing or good payoff.
No, I didn't hate him. In his case, it was just mostly like pity. I was like, man, things are fucked for you.
I felt nothing for this dude. I was like, wow. And I look at like all the others, and like, you know, I'm not the hugest. Like, I'm not like extremely into like Oya, the person at the bar, but like everyone else, or like the gun kid, like everything else was like at a specific like standard to me, and Yuki just felt like he came from a different fucking game.
Yeah, the one thing that I think kept me from disliking him so much is that ultimately there's a certain amount of like outcomes that he achieves that like he actually is responsible for some things improving because he connected you to a problem that needed to get solved, even if his motivations are kind of shit. His actions allowed these kinds of crises to be brought to the attention of the Phantom Thieves. It's like, okay, well, you did something. I'm not in love with how you did it or why you did it, but you at least did it.
I don't know. Just compared to all the others, I was just like, wow, this is like the fucking weak link in this game. I don't know. Unless you want to go around and say everyone else's least favorites.
Nah.
But like,
I don't really have anybody that I really despised.
Yes, as someone who has seen all of these multiple times, his is the one that I will always hit the fast forward button through because I don't care. Like, I've seen this, I don't need to relive this. This sucks. Bye. Skip. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing again so that I can get all, because I didn't really get very far with the gun owner. Completely missed the politician.
Yeah.
I didn't get as far with Ty either. Like
Death Doctor, Dr. Death.
I know, and she was so interesting, but I don't know why. It just there would just be other people, and I just never came around.
She's a blast. I really, first of all, she's useful, but then also, especially early game. But I don't know. She's just, and I'm not just saying that because I made a beeline towards her as soon as I got the game, because I was like, okay, I know what character I'm pursuing before I have the game downloaded. I'm going straight for Ty. Where is she? How early can I get to her? But then when I got to her, I was like, oh, this is a lot more interesting than I expected.
Yeah, well, she was pretty fun, too, with the, here, take this. And...
Yes. Here, take these drugs. Hey, it didn't kill you? Come back.
That's right. So, I mean, it was interesting. So that's... when I do the New Game Plus, I'll probably go to her pretty early on. So.
I love her. Okay.
All right, well, oh, man.
Yeah. We're coming up on 4 hours.
Yeah, let's do this.
We're pushing 3.5, so and I've only got 2 weeks to edit this, so we better get to our final thoughts. So, maybe I'll just run right into the thank yous.
Yeah.
So, just want to thank Seren for. Well, most of the script, I kind of leaned on you for the script, so it was no great help, and
you're welcome.
And to thank James for, I think he's running on 23 hours of staying awake now. So.
22. We're good.
22.
We're good.
So he'll have enough time. It'll be like Greg on the first episode, where it was basically, turn off the laptop, go have a 30-minute power nap, and then, jump in the shower for work the next day.
Hopefully I'll get to go to bed, so that'll be good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not planning on getting up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning again tomorrow. So that'll be nice.
That's good.
The question is, do I sleep through my alarm?
Yes. Thank you to David for having me on, and then as soon as he realized what he had actually asked for, not backing out.
I should have warned.
As soon as I tweeted yesterday, which was, I don't know if you know what you're getting, but I just pulled out my 450-page reference book on the development of and design of Persona 5.
Yeah, well, I started reading the tweets and I'm like, I know who this is directed at.
Yes.
No, it's a fun time, and I hope to have you guys on again for future episodes.
Yeah, I go in, I go all in.
That's right. Well, I think this was a great episode, and I hope everyone enjoys it. So, and and I know, Serenz, you've signed up for like half of the episodes that I sent out. So.
Hey, I didn't sign up for them. I said you could reach out to me for them. If you've signed me up for them, that's news.
Hey, somebody put your name in there. I don't know who it was, but
yeah.
So I'll just run through quickly. Oh, do you guys want to throw out where people can find you, or?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at SerenMCN, which is SYRENNEMCN. that has a lot of shit posts. So if you just want to follow my work,
Sure
which I won't blame you, you can follow the Manifold Garden Project at Manifold Garden. I don't run that Twitter, but I'm the producer of that game. And you can follow Scale at Scale_game on Twitter. I do run that Twitter, and I am also the producer of that game.
And most people listening probably know James is on RFN.
I am the host of Radio Free Nintendo, coming up on 2 years, and I haven't burned the place down yet, which is disappointing. I expected to do better.
Well, you had the opportunity to do it when John was on.
I did, and Nintendo gave us a direct, so we had to behave ourselves, which is really upsetting. If we didn't have that, and I got to talk about, got to queue up 5 emails. And there's one that's been burning a hole in the inbox that I'm afraid to even put into a show script.
Was it sent by me?
No.
Okay. You usually ignore those.
I do.
Well, that's the thing. There's always unlimited second chances to burn the place down.
There are. It's true. Every week is a new adventure.
And you can also write an email.
You can also find me on Twitter at NWR_James. God damn it. I just let it out that we're going to take the podcast independent. Nobody needs to know that. And sometimes, now more than sometimes, reviews over at Nintendo World Report. Mm-hmm. Which is just a mistake I have made.
I think there's another code coming your way that I requested be sent to you.
I'm a freelancer. I can just go like, no, I'm not doing that. I can just forward that email to John.
I don't know, you took that terrible Angry Birds game, so like...
No, that was sent to me.
Yeah, but you took it.
Yeah,
so you'll take anything that's sent to you.
There were negotiations, let's put it that way.
James's issue is I'm thinking he doesn't follow the Slack chats too often, because usually what happens is a game gets tossed out, everyone goes, that's a shit game, what should we do with it? And then an email sent.
Yeah. See...
All I know is I found this game on the eShop today, and I immediately messaged Neil and said, you have to give this to James.
But see, I've already started leveraging the other members of RFN to just go like, I got this code. So
no, this one is tailor-made for you.
So the poison spreads from my fingers.
This one is tailor-made for you.
Yeah, but they don't spend as much time Googling. Because, is this game bad? This game
no,
bad.
No, the name of this tells you everything you need to know about it. It's bingo for Nintendo Switch.
Oh, no. That sounds like a Don Lindemann special.
Okay, we should head
out.
All
right. Yeah, and then I'll just finish up with if you want to follow this podcast, it's Thirsty Mage at the Thirsty Mage on Twitter, where I try to send out daily factoids. So hopefully, you find them interesting. If not, just ignore it. It's fine, but follow because that's cool. Because I'll tell you when the episode comes out, which is bi-weekly so far, and hopefully going forward. And if you've made it to this now 3.5 hour podcast,
how?
I congratulate you for your persistence, and thank you for going the distance.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks on the next Thirsty Mage.
I'm gonna go pass out.